officially, according to my atomic clock, it's 6:02. Duncanville City Council working session, Tuesday, October 16th, 2018. We have a pretty heavy-duty schedule tonight since we didn't meet on the 2nd, so we'll do our very, very best to be considerate of everyone's time in terms of visitors. In terms of city council, you're all getting paid overtime, so it doesn't make any difference. Yeah. That's a joke. Anybody get that? Nobody said that. So, first thing on the agenda tonight is a presentation on Encore agreement for streetlight maintenance. Whoops. Oh, I'm sorry. Discuss the agenda items. Sir Hugman.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. On your agenda tonight, on the consent agenda, item 4A are the minutes from the September 4th council meeting, the September 18th council meeting, and the September 3rd, 4th, and 8th board and commission interviews. Item 4B is a resolution authorizing procurement of traffic signal control cabinets. This is through by-board cooperative purchasing contract and an expenditure of $50,000. Annually, we replace a certain number of traffic control cabinets, and so this contract authorizes us to purchase 4 new traffic signal control cabinets for replacement. And those are the cabinets that control all the traffic signals, have all the electronics in them. Item 4C is a resolution authorizing procurement of ADA signals, pedestrian push buttons. This is through Consolidated Traffic Controls through HGAC by Cooperative. This is the 3rd and final year of a 3-year program to change out our crosswalk buttons to an ADA format. This provides audible tones and vibrating surfaces for those push buttons. And so this is, as I said, the 3rd of 3-year phase program, and the locations are listed in your memo. Item 4D is a resolution authorizing procurement of LED illuminated street signs from Consolidated Traffic Controls, also through HGAC cooperative contract. An expenditure of $89,550. This has also been a phased program, and this is the 4th and final year of this program. And this will install 27 street names, signs at 7 intersections, and those intersection locations are also listed in your memo. These are the LED illuminated street signs that you see on the mastheads.
It's Consolidated part of Paradigm, part of the corporate.
That I do not know. I think no, they're not. A separate company. Yes.
Are they?
No,
Is that you?
they're separate companies.
Are you Paradigm?
John is our signs and signals superintendent.
Paradigm used to be in Duncanville.
Durable specialties.
Yes, Durable Specialties.
Yeah.
But Paradigm was the corporate umbrella, and they're all under Paradigm, and that's why I wondered it's Consolidated also. They've got a bunch of them.
Item 4E is a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Burgess & Nyepel. This is for a sanitary sewer evaluation survey. Each year we do a survey of a different wastewater basin. This is for the DA basin, which is in the northeast corner of the city. And they come in and review, do field testing of our wastewater or collection system to look for areas of infiltration and inflow. And then this data is we use for planning our capital improvements and line replacement.
Do we really need to spend $100,000 on them telling us where it is when we've got all these breakdowns all over the city?
Well, what this does is it tells us where we have the problems without having, they do smoke testing of the lines. It also, gives us a better idea of where the problems are or how bad the problems are, so that we can determine which ones are the ones that need. The ones that we're having problems with right now have been identified previously by this kind of study, and they are in our CIP for this year and next year. So that is the worth of that. So like the problems that we're having now, we are already planning to address. I don't know, do you want to add anything, Greg?
Yes, the smoke testing also helps us understand if there are issues with I&I that are caused by the service lines from our point of where they hook up to our sewer lines to the houses as well. So it also tells us if we have issues or contributions to I&I from the private citizens, and then we can tell them that they have problems, and we can work with them to get those fixed as well.
What's on
Infiltration.
Influent.
Yeah, so like
I
basically.
still haven't heard it. What is it? Infiltration.
Inflow
And infiltration.
So it's when the groundwater gets into our stormwater system.
So the ones right now that are
Sanitary.
breaking down, we already have in line to be repaired or to be changed?
Yeah, so the area that we're looking at right now that we targeted are,
I'm talking about with the flood.
yeah, where the pipe bursting, which was causing the SSOs that you all heard about, off of South Alexander, off of Forest Circle, and that whole area was a target for our FY18 pipe bursting program that we awarded back in September.
So all of them are on it or just some of them are on it? All of the ones that
Well,
are having
we-
issues now?
Some of the stuff further south, not necessarily, but targeting some of the area in Rotary Park, and a lot of the area, yes, we.
Venice?
Yeah, that's Rotary Park, it's not Rotary Park.
Well, I think a lot of it is going to be fixed with these projects we have, but every time you have a rain event like we've had, you're going to find new ones. And the reason we need to do this study is because it's amazing how many people, individuals, will tie their roof drains into the sanitary sewer. It's just crazy stuff. And
So you don't see it until you do?
You're right. So they study various things they do, they'll discover that. And then code enforcement can go out and take enforcement action to get them to disconnect.
And I would just like to point out, this is not the septic people. Thank you. I mean, with all the sewer overflow and the. Go ahead. I'm through.
I'm not gonna say anything about the septic tank probably
Yeah.
overflowing too, though.
No, they're not. We smell those if they do. They're not.
Well,
And you know what? When you go to places like Cedar Creek Lake, the entire lake in most of rural Texas is septic. So, anyway, TCEQ said it's the cleanest form. Go ahead.
moving on. The next item is item 4F, is a resolution authorizing services to be provided by Tetra Tech for development of a disaster debris management plan. You may recall that in February of this year, council approved submission and receipt of a grant through TCEQ. We received that grant in the amount of $85,000, and that was to help us develop a disaster debris management program. So with that grant being awarded to us, we're now contracting with a company to develop that disaster debris management plan for the cities of Cedar Hill, Duncanville, and Lancaster. Item 4G is the resolution authorizing a contract between the cities of Duncanville and DeSoto and UT Southwestern for paramedic continuing education training. Since we are in partnership with Best Southwest Cities, we're trying to standardize our continuing education for paramedics. So this contract will be for the cities of DeSoto and Duncanville with UT Southwestern, and then Cedar Hill and Lancaster will enter into contracts once their current contracts expire. Item 4H is a resolution authorizing purchase of personal computer hardware and equipment from Dell USA through the Texas Department of Information Resources contract. This is for our ongoing replacement of computers and other hardware such as monitors, keyboards, docking stations. Dell is an Austin-based company, and by purchasing directly from them, we are able to receive considerable cost savings on the devices that we purchase.
Do we auction off our obsolete equipment? I mean, it's still usable, it may not be the latest and greatest, but it still has life.
We do not. My understanding is that we actually have to submit that for reclamation to the company. So they come pick it up, they break it up, and then we do a profit share, stuff that can be sold.
By law, we have to do that?
That's my understanding. That's what I was told way back when, so I don't.
Can we relook what you were told to find out? I mean, if we can recognize, 15, 20 cents
Is
on
that
the
is
dollar.
that a security reason though?
Yeah, no.
We
The
drill
only ones
holes
that
in
we
the
would
hard drive
have,
and sell the rest of the stuff.
the only ones that we would pull most of the stuff that anybody would be interested in would be from the police department, because their hard drives and their RAM, we have to destroy that ourselves. But everything else, I mean, we could wipe out hard drives and resell, but my understanding is that that's the way it has to be. I'll double
Yeah, we'll
check.
talk
We'll double
more.
check, absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Oh. Tracy will talk to you. Item 4I is a designation or resolution authorizing the award of the official newspaper designation to the Focus Daily News. This is an amount less than state law requirements of $50,000. However, traditionally, the council has awarded that to the city's newspaper, official newspaper. There are certain requirements that a newspaper has to meet to be considered as a official newspaper, and that is that it has to be published regularly and continuously for at least 12 months, and it has to a certain number of days.
Has to have publication, the number of people, and it has to come out, it's supposed to come out daily.
Weekly.
Well, that's why the Suburban didn't qualify.
Because they were bi-weekly.
Yeah, but they had talked about coming out weekly, and that wouldn't even satisfy it.
There's circulation requirement.
I'm sorry,
You're
Mr.
right.
Hager, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, there's a circulation requirement, number of circulations.
Because they have to sell.
In addition to frequency.
Yes, sir.
And Focus is the only one that accomplishes that, other than going to Dallas Morning News. Right.
Yes, sir.
And this is for publication of our official notices. Item 4G is a resolution approving an interlocal agreement between the City of Duncanville and the Duncanville ISD for the provision of law enforcement services, and this includes the use of the holding facility. So as Duncanville ISD is developing their police force, they've been in communication with our police department, and so this agreement will allow them to use our holding facility for adult detainees.
Does this include personnel or only our facility?
This one.
Just the facility. The reason I ask is the wording of this is law enforcement services, which is a pretty broad statement. That's why I had to get clarification. And we're not talking about any people. We're
No,
only
sir.
talking about the use of our holding facility.
Yes, sir, it's exclusively arrest. If they arrest an adult, then they bring that individual to our holding facility.
Okay.
There's also a standard mutual aid component there, so if they need our help and our assistance, then we'll respond to that, and they'll do that vice versa for us as well.
So it may include personnel.
It's pretty standard between local law enforcement agencies. It's just putting that in writing.
It's the same agreement that we have with our sister cities that surround us, that for mutual aid purposes, so that they can act together in concert.
Okay.
But that's evolved. That has not always been that way. In fact, when did they start hiring?
Well, they're in the process of developing. They brought on some people from Mansfield ISD that was already there. I'm not certain how many additional people they've hired, but the plan is to hire additional personnel.
They used to use Duncanville Police for part of the year, and then in the summer, they'd come back.
I know some events I
School
went to in
resource
the school,
officers.
the patches were from Mansfield, I guess, one of the officers.
This past school year with the Duncanville ISD previously contracted with Dallas County Schools for police services. With the dissolution of Dallas County Schools, in January, they had to go with Mansfield ISD. Mansfield ISD Police provided their police services. I told them they could not continue to do that on a long-term basis, and so that is why Duncanville ISD is standing up their own police force. But in the interim, I think Mansfield is still supporting them until they get fully staffed up. Item 4K is a resolution approving terms and conditions of an interlocal agreement with the city of Louisville for purchase of goods and services. This is where the city of Louisville has approached us and wants to use one of our previous bids for their purposes for purchasing. I think that's in roadway striping.
Why do we do a resolution then if they're using our?
It's where the resolution is to approve the interlocal agreement with them so that then they have authorization to use our purchasing agreement.
I didn't know that they had to, that we had to agree to it.
Yes. It's a standard interlocal agreement that we would have with, when we do one, we both entities approve it.
Has to be bilateral.
Yes, sir.
And item 4L is a resolution approving terms and conditions of an agreement for street lighting services between Encore Electric and the city of Duncanville. This agreement just covers the maintenance of our street lighting program and is subject to the overall master agreement with Encore.
And is it that on the freeway?
No, we handle the lights on the freeway.
So who's turning them on?
No, we own the lights along I-20. So
And who
when-
turns them on? Because they've been off a lot.
Well,
We had them reviewed, we did go out and we had our contractor out there a couple of months ago and they replaced a number of them, and there was one section that was out, and I think it had to do with the control circuit, but they had fixed that.
It was just in Duncanville, because you come in, it could be lit up, you come into it, they're off, you go out of it, and they're lit again. So I don't know.
This section is a section between Cedar Ridge and Duncanville Road was out. But
And
that
it was also before that too, because coming in late from, on the weekends, we'd see it. It was weird.
We're responsible for maintaining those lights. Those are all of the items on the consent agenda. On the individual consideration items, item 5A is a public hearing and ordinance amending the downtown Duncanville district zoning ordinance for outside display and parking lot tent sales. This is pertaining to the downtown district. You may recall that we previously discussed the concept of these changes with the council several months ago. You gave us some direction and input on that. We subsequently met with the downtown business owners and discussed those changes, and this ordinance amendment has gone to P&Z and is before the city council.
I don't recall discussing with them about changing it.
That had to do with the outside display.
Right. I remember they came up in the council meeting and talked about it, and that you said that we were gonna talk about it, but the downtown area originally, we made businesses that we thought were less than desirable and were not kept up well. We kind of got them to leave, and it was supposed to be our loveliest part of the city. And so now, we're saying that you can drag stuff out on the sidewalks, and nowhere else in the city can you do it, but right here. We had talked about this before on previous councils, and that was not something that we wanted to do.
Well, the direction from council when we had the workshop, when we discussed it in the briefing session, was to go ahead and to draft some regulations that were not just open to everything. But the problem that they had before was that under our outside storage ordinance, it had to be new. And and most of those stores sell antiques, so they could not at all display it outside. So there was provisions put in to allow them to do that. It does have limits on where and when they can display it, but that was based also on the council's direction, the consensus of the council, what you gave us when we had that discussion with you all. So Chastity will outline those changes.
That's accurate, and that's correct. The deference is being given to those antique shops. They're nice
Only.
antique shops.
Well, it's difficult too for some people to walk down the street when there are things out on it, people with disabilities.
Well, there's a, you know, there is a limitation here in terms of feet. I'm sure none of those individuals intend to put it anything further than what's right in front of their storefront. But the concern is that an antique shop does get a lot of foot traffic and attraction from people driving by or walking by saying, this is an antique, it may be a collectible, maybe something I would want. And in deference to those, we have 3 shops that fall into that category. And that's where our attention is being focused on those 3. And it's defined here in the paragraph about outside display.
Right,
So,
I thought
but
we were
it can
talking
also,
about
you know, it's enforceable, let's put it that way. It gives them some latitude for professional display of collectible and antique merchandise. At the same time, it gives us the ability to enforce things that we think are outside
I
bounds of
would, I
what we
would say
intend.
be prepared, because if I was another store in another part of town and they were getting to, I would want to too.
Understood, understood.
Item 5B is an ordinance amending Chapter 5 to add residential rental registration program. Council, you know that we've been discussing this for some time with you, gotten your input on a rental registration program. This is now bringing those ordinance to you for implementation.
You know, as I was reading through this, something I just don't recall us talking about during our briefings on this was church, excuse me, church parsonages, where residents may be on church property that the pastor lives in or a staff member on the church. And I guess the way this ordinance is written, they're gonna have to go through the same rental process as anybody else. Am I reading that correctly?
You are.
If it's rental property.
Well, that's
I mean,
the
are they
question.
renting from the church?
No, it's provided to them, at least our church.
I don't know that,
I don't think.
if it's not rent for profit, then I don't know, but that would be something we'd have to talk about.
Definitions under rental. That's what
Yeah, I don't know how the church carries that on the books for them, whether it's rent or whether it's just consideration. I assume it's part of the pastor's
Part of the salary,
compensation or
yeah.
benefit. So to me, they're not renting it for outside usage, so I would tend to think that we could leave that alone. And we might be some First Amendment issues we don't need to get into.
Yeah. Well, it just, as I was reading through this, in the agenda, no, we didn't really talk about this. So I'm good.
Item 5C then is to amend the master fee schedule, and that will incorporate the rental registration fees. Also, since we were amending the fee schedule, we are also making some changes in there regarding some library fees that are also being changed. Item 5D is to amend Chapter 9A for flood damage. This is to adopt the latest FEMA flood insurance rate map. We are required to adopt the new map by March 21st of 2019. It does not make any changes to properties within Duncanville. There are no properties that are brought into or moved out of the floodplain, but it is just adopting the most recent version of the flood insurance rate map. Item 5E is an ordinance amending Chapter 20 for water, sewer, and sewage disposal, and this amends the fats, oils, and greases regulations. When we underwent an inspection recently by the EPA, and we did well in our inspection. One of the recommendations that was in our ordinance that they recommended we tighten up our fats, oils, and greases regulations. to meet TCEQ requirements. And so that is what these changes are. They mainly deal with inspection requirements for businesses that have grease traps.
If I could ask a question or make a comment on these last two items, on the water, sewage, and grease, and flood damage prevention. It appears that these are simply doing things that we're required by law to do. In essence, if that's the effect of what we need to do, can the briefing of these two items be very, very simple and short? That we understand that there are current laws in effect, new laws have come into play, those laws need to be amended, we are simply amending those as prescribed. So the briefing that would come before council can be like
These are very brief.
Okay.
presentations
Can we
already.
move them to the consent agenda?
No, because they're ordinances as I see it.
You can't move consent to,
Legally, you can. If you have a policy that you don't want to, then that's up to the council. But as long as the council votes on it, and it's an ordinance form, and it's in written form, it can be on the consent agenda. There's no legal impediment. But in most cities, if it's an ordinance, they like to talk about them, or at least put them on there. But, so it's up to the council how they would like to handle it.
Move it to consent.
I agree. Moving to consent. Do we do that now? Or
No, but you could do both those two things together. If someone would read a motion, if you'd read them into the record as 5D and E and kind of have mini consent and ask that they be approved in one motion, you could certainly do that as well.
Okay, great.
Do that after the consent agenda or when they come up in the?
Just when they
order?
come up in order.
Okay.
So that would be when city secretary is reading them, we would stop at that point when she starts
Ask her to read both 5D and E together.
D, and then someone will make a motion to move these two items to consent agenda, and we take a vote on that.
No, it would probably be simpler for you for the minutes that when you come to 5D, is ask the city secretary to read 5D and E together, and you, Mayor, ask the council to consider both those, that they're routine in nature, they're required by state law or federal law for us to pass these. You'd ask the council for a motion to approve 5D and E together. And I will be more than happy to help you when that comes up, if you would like me to.
Got it. Good. Good.
Item 5F is a resolution to confirm the city manager's reappointment of Curtis J. Smith Jr. to the Duncanville Civil Service Commission. Curtis Smith has served one term, complete term on the Civil Service Commission, and I am recommending him for reappointment. Under civil service statutes, the commissioners on the Civil Service Commission are appointed by me, but must be ratified by the City Council. Mr. Smith is a retired police officer, retired Houston police officer with 32 years of service, and he's been a resident of Duncanville for 6 years. He served very well on the Civil Service Commission.
We interviewed him, didn't we, for a different board?
Not this year.
No, but previously.
A couple of years ago, he interviewed, and he was on KDB for a brief period.
He's kind of tall, big guy.
Dr. Terry Smith's husband.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
who are the other members of the civil service?
Yeah.
Leah Polk and
John Marks.
John
Who is it?
John Marks and Leah Polk.
Assistant police chief.
And who was the other one?
Leah Polk, she's an attorney.
You have a really good commission. Watches out for the officers and the fire and police guys. Very knowledgeable.
Item 5G is to consider appointments to various boards and commissions. They are listed. You have your sheets that y'all have worked on. One thing that I would note on here is to ask the council to consider making the terms of the new appointees to be effective November 1st. That gives us a couple of weeks to notify people. We do have some boards that are meeting here even as early as next week. And so to make the terms effective immediately could cause some logistical problems for us. So we'll just ask if you would consider making the terms begin November 1st. Within your sheet, we did note on there the terms that would be expiring, that are 2-year terms, and then those terms that if you fill an unexpired term, that those are filling unexpired terms and will expire in 2019. So when you make your appointments, if you would note that as well.
Just like the, I have in my notes under Duncanville Senior Advocacy Commission that Kenneth Bradford and Kim Malone were reappointed. So I don't know how they got left off.
I went by the mayor's notes and did not have that on.
Kenneth Bradford had perfect attendance, and Kim Malone had some absences, but she was also on the bond committee and had conflicts between the two committees.
The discussions that I recall took place for that particular commission board was that we needed to advertise for a significant number of new individuals, and looking at everything in respect for that let's just go ahead and allow these individuals to continue to serve until we get some more new people to interview and then make changes. So virtually no changes except for one individual, and that's for the vacancy as indicated.
I mean, that's not my memory, but that's where I went. I mean, are you going to replace, are they Kenneth Bradford and Kim Malone? Are they up for replacement?
No,
Why don't we just carry them over?
that's what we're going to do. We are carrying them over until we get some more people to interview, and then we'll make additional decisions on that particular commission.
So there's only one spot open. So we're going to,
There were other considerations that we had for that particular commission, and that's why we as a council during our discussions decided to look at some more individuals. And that's H. Okay.
35 H's and second.
Right. All right. So now we are moving to the presentation on Encore.
Sure.
Anticipated time, Mr. Rand?
3 minutes?
Hey, we'll hold him down.
Man after my heart. They're getting it, aren't they?
Just, I do want to point out, who was here, Kenneth Goban is around from, who's our Encore.
He just stepped out.
But again, that was, so in case you have any questions when he gets back in.
Yeah, why is our electricity going off and on 7 and 8 times all weekend long?
Is that part of my 3 minutes? Just a little bit of the background. So our streetlights are all leased from Encore, and we pay about $400,000 a year for those streetlights for those leases. There is a new program, again, as you see, for potential to upgrade to incorporate LEDs into in lieu of the high pressure sodium. And what you see here is just, these aren't really from Duncanville, but I'm sure you've seen the high pressure sodium, which is what we see throughout the city, which is the yellow lights, and then the LEDs go to these bright white lights. Encore, as part of their tariff, provides us with 4 different options. What you see here are those. So the Cobra head, the arrow to the side means swapping out just a Cobra head that you would see along Wheatland with one of these is really no cost change. If we were to upgrade to one of those rectangular ones you see on the upper right, that does cost about $10 a month per light. The post tops is a minor increase. Those would be more what we'd be putting in neighborhoods, more typical in the neighborhoods. Those are about $2 a light per month. And then these historical ones are really fancy, and again, they're about $20 a month per light. So just again, for your discussion and the guidance, is just to talk about, do we want the LEDs along the arterial roads? Do we want to push them into the residential areas? As you can see from the residential areas, just to convert those to LED post tops would be about a 10% increase to our annual budget to bring those in. You know, what we're really getting is with these LEDs is a longer lifespan between replacements and a brighter light. If we go replace our on the arterials, the Cobra heads, there's really a wash with those, but if the council decides that they really like the rectangulars, you see it's a significant impact to our annual budget.
Other than looks, what's the difference? No difference?
Between the rectangular and the Cobra heads? It's just the looks.
Aesthetic.
I thought there was some variation in terms of the angle of coverage between the rectangular and the Cobra.
Oh, no.
No. Okay.
And so the other question that we would have for your consideration is, you know, do we want to replace the light fixtures through attrition or all at once? If we do through attrition, then as our high pressure sodium lights, the bulbs burn out, the fixtures break, then we will just replace them with a Cobra head or a post top in kind, and that would be at no cost to the city. However, if we want to do big swaths, because what you will find through an attrition is a bunch of red or a bunch of yellow and a bunch of white and a bunch of yellow and a bunch of white until attrition gets rid of all the old light fixtures. We can do that, but we incur a $220 per light fixture cost to replace them early. And just for an example of what that would do, if you just look at Wheatland Road between Cockrell Hill and Maine, there's 33 light fixtures, so we're looking at $7,000 for a conversion just for one road segment of arterials. So our recommendation, or my recommendation to you would be to consider the minor arterials and the residential using those through attrition, but working into our budget the road segments along the major arterial roads. We would basically do some attritional replacement, but then go in and just knock out big swatches as, you know, based on budget considerations every year. I did talk to Cedar Hill. They actually have elected to forego the LEDs until what they want to do is bulk, do everything in big swaths. So when they have money to just go and do a neighborhood, they're going to go in and do it all at once and pay I would say, a premium to do so. But I don't necessarily recommend.
When you say the budget impact plus 10% or plus 37%, yeah. Is that the first year? What year?
That's every year.
LED costs more than, I thought they cost less.
For power considerations, less. And so if you see the 5 cent per kilowatt hour, we have a very, very low unit price for our kilowatt hours. If we have more expensive electricity, it would be less money. But we're really paying a lot of money for the fixtures, yes. That's really what it boils down to.
Okay, so I'm not following you. So the plus 10% is for?
As annually for perpetuity, basically, or until the tariff changes.
And that's
This
assuming
doesn't
that all.
factor in the power consumption?
Correct.
So this is
Just the
equivalent, just
equipment.
yeah.
Just for the fixtures.
Okay.
So our new lease rates.
And that
Well,
is if
where's
they
the
follow.
minus for the electricity we're saving because LED uses less?
That's not indicated, from
Should
what I
be.
understand.
When we got the pricing sheets from Encore, they presented us with multiple power rates, and what you see with the larger, the cities that had really large rates, like say 7 cents, 8 cents a kilowatt hour, then you would see, then that would be manifest itself in the power. The power savings would manifest itself.
Mr. Govan, yeah, could you enlighten us here?
What you, if I may, what you're looking at here is a lot of times the tariff looks at, we're going to replace the lights as they go out. But when you do that, you're gonna have an old light, a new light, an old light, a new light. What you don't want is citizens going down the road having that old light, new light, old light. One of the things the staff looked at is go ahead and replacing those lights up front, and that's the upfront cost that you're gonna be looking at up front. That's this upfront budget.
And that's the
impact that you're
bottom,
gonna be looking at.
the bottom one.
Is that the upfront?
The
budget
220,
that
the
we're looking at?
upfront one is reflected in the final bullet about the
Plus
220
37.
bucks piece on top of the monthly lease that you quoted me.
That's the $200. That's the $200 per light.
Yes, that's it.
Does your monthly lease include the energy cost savings?
No,
It does not.
it does not. It does not. That's
just the
that
lease
comes.
of the light
That's
fixture.
just the lease of the light fixture.
We need to see that, make us feel
But
better.
that comes from your retail provider.
Yeah, see, we
That
don't-
has
we
nothing
don't-
to do
Oh,
with
yeah, I
me.
forgot.
That has
You
nothing to
only-
do with me.
Yeah.
So I can't
Do
show
we need
you.
to talk about what does have to do with you?
Yes.
Our lights going off and on all week?
Say that again.
Our lights going off and on all weekend.
That part has to do with me. Yes. Yes. So as far as how much you pay for it, that's part of your retail
How much you're
provider.
paying for it to go off and on? I would like to talk
So
about
no, that part wouldn't be something that he could actually put as part of this
Right,
presentation.
I get it, you're right. Who do we buy from?
We have
Jackson
Who?
Energy. It's Jackson Energy through TCAP, through the Texas Coalition of Affordable Power.
So no, he can't put that as part of this presentation.
But we do know that the difference in,
LED versus?
yeah, I mean, that's
That's
a calculable.
It's a
number.
that is going to offset your cost in regards to.
You know, they require at SMU for all the students to use LED.
Well, we recommend going to the LED. It's a white light, it's a brighter light, and so we think, you know,
It's gonna
Aqua's
be a
either
brighter,
replace
it's
with
gonna be a
LED
cleaner-
or high pressure sodium. That's our
And it
only
uses
two
less-
options.
less
Right,
electricity.
it's less.
You're going to use less electricity. It's going to be a brighter. It's going to be a cleaner light. It's going to be a cleaner. It's going to be a cleaner light. It's going to be a crisper light. It's going to be a very cleaner light. And as you're going down the street, it's going to be just a very aesthetically pleasing going here. As part of the comprehensive plan committee here in Duncanville, as part of that committee, one of the things that we talked about was Duncanville going forward, having that cleaner look. And I thought about that. I couldn't talk about it on the committee when I was doing that, but that's one of the things that we talked about going forward.
But you're gonna be replacing the lights less frequently because they're not gonna burn out as quickly.
Correct.
So
Correct.
why don't we get a better break on
Why
the
don't
fixtures?
you?
Yeah. Because
It's
your
part
cost
of-
is
it's part of the
going
tariff.
down.
This is what you're gonna get as a tariff. This is what every city gets. This is not just Duncanville. This is the state tariff.
You feeling better?
No?
Okay, what's our total cost per year now?
400, a little under 400.
400,000?
Correct.
To replace all of them?
No, that's
No,
not light.
that's
our
what
light
we
bill.
pay
How much
$400,000
And
repair?
they replace them when they burn out.
Right.
We pay $400,000 a year now
the lease
for
of-
the high pressure sodium lights.
Okay.
If we as a city elect to replace post tops where necessary in the city, and then mainly in the residential areas, and then go down and replace all the existing Cobra Head high pressure sodium bulbs with the Cobra Head LED bulbs, then our budget going forward, instead of being us budgeting approximately $400,000 a year for light fixtures, for the street light lease, we would now be budgeting for $440,000 a year going forward. So that is the long-term budget impact of going to LED. Now, the second sort of piece is attrition fine, or do we want to, in our major arterial roads, pay extra money to have Encore do big segments of our roads?
I'm not ready to go to that question.
Oh, okay.
Because it goes back to the other question in terms of net, you know, I look at the net of this thing, okay? There's the cost of the equipment, there's the cost of electricity. Equipment goes up, electricity goes down. Now, you just told us that our lease is gonna go up $40,000 a year. So the question that begs in my mind is the savings using LEDs is our electricity gonna go down $40,000 a year to bring us into a net of break even zero on for current 400,000 a year?
And I believe it goes up 40,000 if you replace every light in your
That
city.
is right, that is.
That is, I
1,400
don't see the
residential
city
lights.
replacing every light in the city.
We might.
That's if we do.
Yeah.
That's if you
Yeah,
do.
but I mean,
That-
if we wanted that look, I'm kind of with you. I don't know how bright old is kind of weird.
Well,
It looks old.
Well,
It's
in
like-
certain parts of the city, you may do that, and that's over time, and that's over time. I don't, if you're gonna do everything in 1 year, if you're gonna do everything over the next 4 or 5 years, that's a question for the council.
How much does it cost if we do all of them at once?
220 times 2,400, so
$20?
2,400 times 200, 50,000.
$400,000.
Yeah, another 400.
Yeah, you
We
got-
we don't recommend replacing all of the lights at one time.
Yeah,
What we would
that wouldn't-
recommend is in the neighborhoods, replace them through
Yeah,
attrition.
because you got different lights within your neighborhood, you got different lights going down Copper Hill, Wintergreen,
I realize
Westmoreland.
that. And then you get into, this neighborhood got updated lights and this one didn't.
Exactly, exactly.
That's, so who gets them first? When you do them sporadically and,
It says they
They
burn
would be
out.
as they burn out,
Yeah,
but what
right.
we would do
Yeah,
then.
how's the gun work?
Well,
Also,
that's what I'm
also,
saying.
Yeah.
also, do you want to spend your capital, or do you want to let me do them as they go out also?
Because if you do them when they go out, you pay for it?
Exactly.
Can we help them go out?
See now, Councilwoman, we really don't want to go there.
But I asked the same question.
You did? You asked the same question?
See, I wasn't gonna say that. See, I was gonna let you keep that one. I wasn't gonna say
So I
that.
say we could use them like a whole lot. And they burn out.
We're leasing.
Correct.
Because there's other options.
Correct. Encore owns
What?
the lights. You lease the lights from Encore, correct.
Huh?
We can buy a system and have a system.
And then we do the repair. What's the difference there?
Well, I don't know.
You're talking about owning the system outright?
I'm just saying, we could buy the system. Put LEDs in,
Yeah,
save a budget.
You need a bond for that.
No.
Yeah, I don't,
We're
Well,
talking,
I'm
we're
just saying
talking
there's other
some big,
options.
yeah, you know, a lease versus purchase option or something like this magnitude, I don't think we're prepared to even own.
yeah, we've
Our
had,
business is not owning this stuff.
I think the only 3 cities in the system that actually own their own lights are Dallas, Fort Worth, and Arlington. And they're not happy with the idea, but they do.
Why they do it then?
Because they thought they wanted to.
Screwed up, that's why.
They thought they wanted to.
To save money.
They used to own the hard.
Because sometimes leasing to own is not the best.
Well,
way.
that's.
Dallas owned their own power company at one time, Dallas Power and Lights.
Yeah, I remember that.
So,
Mr. Govan, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
And how long really has the LED replacement been going on? What are cities typically doing?
The tariff just got approved in April, so we just started this process. No, we just started submitting this idea, this tariff to the cities. So it's just, the process really just got started.
So if, whatever decision we make, is there a contract we sign?
And let me say this, even if you sign it, you don't have to start it right now. But it gives you the option to start it whenever you want to.
Well, I don't have a problem with having new clean lights. I'm just saying, I would
So-
rather have,
So to answer your question, ma'am, there is a follow-on, I guess a supplement to that master service agreement that talks about LEDs and do we want to be in the program or not? And if so, what do we want? So it might be just Cobra heads, it could be post tops and Cobra heads, and that's it. And then after we sign up for that program, we could then start replacing them through attrition. And then if we decide that we want to start doing big swaths, then there's a form, I think it was one of the exhibits that was in your MSA that we would fill out and say, basically go down Wheatland from here to here and replace those light bulbs.
How long do those lights usually last? What's the lifetime on the old ones?
2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I looked it up. It's like 24,000 hours for a high pressure sodium versus over 100,000 for LED.
So 4 times the life.
So,
What we've done is we actually done a pilot program. I forget the name of the street that the Civic Center in Cedar Hill, that whole street in Cedar Hill. We done a pilot program of 2 years in Cedar Hill. And actually we did it for like almost 3 years. We wanted to make sure that the LED lights would actually take Texas summers, winters, hurricanes. The LED lights would actually take Texas weather. And that's when the PUC, we did it in Cedar Hill, Grand Prairie, Waco, and Midland to make sure that the LED lights would actually take Texas weather. So that's kind of what they did.
When it was the post top, is that when you've seen it, is that all the way through the whole city, or did anybody highlight some areas in their city to say, I'm gonna go to Copperhead because this is our key point of our city, or did everybody just do post top and that was it all the way through?
Say that one time,
On the post top, did they do, when a city selected that post top, did they do that all the way throughout the whole city?
No, this is a residential development.
If they had a post-top residential, that's what the developer or the city wanted in that area. That's just what they selected in that area.
We do have a few areas, like, so for example, Hollywood Park has post tops.
Hollywood Park has post tops.
And some of the other neighborhoods have post tops. There are a few neighborhoods that do have some Cobra head in them. And if they're Cobra head, we would just replace a Cobra head with a Cobra head.
Okay.
Or if we would have a post top, we would replace it with a post top. That's really what we would be doing under at least this.
Because that post top in for instance, Hollywood Park, that light is not very bright at all.
It's not. And I think that was when Jessica first got here, we talked about, we looked at those. When she first got here, we looked at those.
And on Barrymore, we did a pallet on Barrymore 3 or 4 years ago. Did you know what those are? We replaced
Help me
those.
know what Barrymore is.
Barrymore's in Hollywood Park. It's the last street on Hollywood Park. It was a pilot to improve lights on the street.
Okay.
So some of the, other.
I want to know how much the expected savings would be between going from the old ones to the new LED.
According to the tariff that I have, there is 0 savings with Cobra head to Cobra head. That's a wash. And the post tops there's no savings.
Why
It
would that
It
be?
would cost more money.
Because you're saving money on the actual energy use.
Well, that's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
she wants to see that.
That's what I want to know. The energy savings.
We don't know.
Yeah, but he should know, not him.
Well,
Encore is just the delivery. They're not the service, but he should know.
What I got from Encore was basically a table that said, if you pay this much money for power,
Right.
your lease will be X.
Right.
So it incorporates our power rate. So that 5 cents that we pay for kilowatt hours reflects that price up there, $30.
But we just asked you that if you had minused it out. You said no.
The table reflected it. I didn't subtract anything. The table told me that I got
And
from
Encore is providing it depending on what you're supposedly paying per kilowatt hour.
They said if you pay this much money, and they gave several different rates from 5 further out. We're at the 5 cent one, and so based on our 5 cent rate, that is what our cost is per post top.
then the title of this column is incorrect, because you say it's only the tariff, but you're telling us you pulled it from
Right.
the table from Encore that includes
That
both the
includes-
cost of
right.
energy and the cost of equipment. That's where we're being misled.
Yes.
Well,
It should be less if you're using LED. That's the point. That's why SMU makes them do it. It's because it costs them less electricity.
I agree that LEDs last longer and that LEDs
Use less electricity.
use less electricity. I conceptually that is correct. All I'm saying is that when I get the tariff rates from Encore and apply our kilowatt hour charge for power, that is the number they gave. That's the number that it yields.
So the cost of the lease, the energy savings does not offset the increase in cost for the lease. The equipment is more expensive for most of it, except for the Cobra head.
But you have, because you
You
have
have longer
90,
life.
because 90% of your lights are Cobra heads, and because that equals out. Because you have historical, decorative, and your Cobra head, and your post tops are in subdivisions like Hollywood Park and on Main Street, along because you have your decoratives. That's where it actually equals itself out, because 90% of your lights are Cobra heads.
So mathematically, to get us the answer that we're looking for, because the light has a 10-year life, it's a 4 times longer life than what, I'm going to try to articulate this.
I'm
Don't
gonna
stop
shut
me.
up, yes.
Don't stop me.
Mhm.
In order to pull this into a true life cycle cost, because of the life of the LED versus the high pressure sodium, we would have to do some linear regression and life cycle costing to pull this thing out 10 years versus looking at it for just whatever this matrix was that Encore just gave us. So to get the net over the life cycle cost of replacement is a little bit more math than what we've been given tonight.
Okay.
Am I
Correct.
Are you following me? Because we got a 10-year life versus a 2.5-year life.
All right. Give me an opportunity to try to explain that one. True. Instead of a 2-year life, you have more of a 10-year life on the lights.
Yeah.
In addition to that, you're using less electricity, which means you're going to use electricity. You're going to use less, even though your retail provider is probably going to charge you the same. You're going to use less, which means your electricity bill should go down. Because
But what do you mean about try to charge you more?
Say that again.
You said, but your provider will try to charge you more.
We'll charge you the same.
Oh, okay.
Number 3, because 99% of your electricity lights that you have in the city are Cobra heads, and Cobra heads equal out in regards to the high pressure sodiums and the LEDs that you actually have. They take up, I'm gonna say 90% of the lights that you have, 99%. They take up 90% of the lights that you actually have here. Number 4, changing out the high pressure sodiums from your decorative lights and your post tops over time, the monies that you actually save over time will justify in regards to changing out the LEDs.
We understand that, Kenneth. What we're looking for is the number.
I probably
Nobody
won't,
can give us that
standing
number.
here talking to you, I can probably get you the number. I won't have it standing here talking to you.
I know that. That's what I said. In order to take this, to give us the answer we want, it's going to take a little bit more number crunching.
I can do that.
And whether it's you or whether it's our internal staff, I don't know where it comes from. It's
It's
a
a
linear
combination
regression.
of
It's
both.
all
We have
this
to get
probably
more
out 10 years.
information from
Right.
Encore and look at ours.
There's no
We'll come back.
question we want LED replacement. We're good with that. We
Unless
just
for
want to know
some,
what we're looking
unless for
at.
some miraculous reason it's costing us more, that doesn't make sense.
We just want to know what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And I think my understanding of tonight's presentation was just to give you information. I wasn't expecting you to make a decision tonight. My understanding was just to give you information that this is something that they're going to present to you for a future date. I wasn't expecting you to make a decision tonight. That wasn't my thought for tonight. I thought you were just going to get information for tonight. Am I wrong?
Well, my
We
intent
were
was-
looking for a direction on how you wanted us to replace the lights.
Yep.
Because we feel that LED is the way to go. We feel that replacing the Cobra head with Cobra head is the way to go. Replacing the post top with post top is the way to go. The extra cost is incidental, I think, overall. And we can crunch the numbers, but I think overall the extra cost is incidental. The LEDs give you a cleaner, brighter light, and over time, we will see more cost savings. But what we wanted to know was, how do you want, if you agree with that, how do you want us to replace them? We feel that the neighborhoods and the minor arterials, we just do it by attrition, which means you'll see spottiness for 5 or so years until everything gets replaced out. But on the major arterials, we don't really think that's the best way to go, but we wanted your direction. Do you want us to budget for segment at a time? And we try to change out a segment at a time.
That's the bullet right there.
That's the bullet, the bottom bullet.
A major arterial, and I gotta say.
And
Right,
unfortunately.
but if you're saving, but if you're saving a lot of money, then that might be worth it. To change them all out.
Somewhere these folks in Encore have gone subterranean in terms of coming up with the numbers, because if you look at the quantity, they know exactly what they're trying to tell us. You know, it's 528 arterial clover heads. Well, are those for, is that in a minor arterial or where?
It is not that, it's not clear where, we don't have counts by every arterial. That's not,
So for us
we
to-
know our total head count.
For us to give you a decision on that first bullet, which is what you're looking for, I was hoping, Greg, you were gonna say, yeah, we know exactly where every one of those 528 are. And that's a minor arterial, or it's a residential, or, but it's definitely not a major arterial.
Yeah, and the money, that's the thing. How much, we need to know how much we're saving. Is if we're saving enough that it would make it worth it.
Over 10 years, we can probably see some savings, but you and I are not gonna live to see that.
Right, I want to have, well, I will live to see it.
Wow, Mayor, really? Really?
Don't be thinking for me.
I'll be here.
I will.
And the thing about it is that because the Cobra heads does not, there's a zero impact to the Cobra heads. If you decide to go ahead and do the Cobra heads, you can always include the Cobra heads and start there. And in the future, if you wanted to add post tops, if you wanted to add the decorative or the historicals, you can add those later because you can. They're all included, but you don't have to do those now.
I would like to know how much, the money. I want to talk the money.
I understand. What I'm saying is that when you had the really high expensive kilowatt hours, you did end up getting ended up being more of a wash. Especially as you go look at post ops, the Cobra heads actually put money in your pocket. At the 7 cents, at the 8 cent a kilowatt hour. We don't pay a lot of money because we already don't pay a lot of money for our power, there is not a lot of savings to be generated because we don't pay a lot per kilowatt hour.
I think we need to go back and we'll go take a look at this data and work with Ken and try to give you a better idea of costs on this. But recognize, as we said, we know total numbers. We don't know where every light head is, what exactly each light head is. So we'll have to look and see if we've got that data, try to figure out and give you some other examples. But as Greg did give you an example of Wheatland from Cockrell Hill to Maine, that's probably a pretty representative type of segment.
And I hear what you're saying. What I want to see though is when you start talking about main arteries, that you replace main arteries and then we replace them as they go out. And ooh, this neighborhood, a whole bunch of them went out and they have all new lights, and this one is still waiting 5 years from now. Remember my street light at Redbird and Duncanville Road? I didn't think a street light would take that long.
I think in the overall, we kind of agree with the first bullet, that's the right way to do it. We're just wanting to be a little down in the weeds, maybe more than you expected, wanting some numbers.
And that's fine.
That's all.
And that's fine.
If you're fine with us going ahead right away and starting to replace in the neighborhoods with LED, we can do that right away. And I don't think it's going to make a change. I think your concern is more with the arterials and what's that look like.
The arterials.
So we can at least start doing that, replacing them as they go out.
Yeah. Mine was that we might want to include the neighborhoods also.
And do them all at once. It doesn't hurt to go ahead and start replacing. That's just fewer that we have to pay for.
Right.
But again, to replace all of them would be a pretty significant chunk of money. But over a few years, that it will
I just
happen.
can't believe that we wouldn't be saving a chunk of money, because why would,
I don't
we
think it's gonna
laugh about,
offset the cost.
they have people who check the rooms to see if you've replaced your light bulb at SMU. Why would they do that if there wasn't a significant difference that they didn't want to pay for? I mean, it's a joke. It's like the light bulb police. So.
Well, by the same token, the United States government has eliminated the production of incandescent lights.
And why?
And all the CFLs. Now CFLs have been basically outlawed because they're a danger to our health. So
Right.
CFLs have been replaced by LEDs.
Okay. And LEDs use less electricity.
And they do,
Supposedly.
at SMU, they make you buy your light fixture, they make you buy your light bulb, and so it's no cost to them.
Yeah, you have to provide, well, it is.
But it's no cost,
Yeah.
SMU's only selling the electricity.
Right.
We have fixtures, I mean, I priced LED bulbs when I was in Kuwait. One bulb is like $350, $500, I mean, they're super duper expensive bulbs. And then the fixtures are also very expensive. And so, I mean.
And we have to buy them from,
When we go through on.
because you provide them,
It's part of the tariff.
That's part of my tariff, yes.
part of your tariff. I like that look, Dennis.
Okay. We gotta figure out a way to move
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, yes,
So do you want us to start replacing them as they go out?
In the neighborhoods.
Well, that's gonna look awful strange to me.
I think but it sounds like the wise way to go about it, doesn't it?
well, the advantage in the neighborhoods, the lights aren't just bang, bang, bang.
No,
They're
they're
each
It's not like you're
intersection
driving down to
point.
see a row of lights. So I don't think the visual impact of them is gonna make a difference.
In a way, we've got some of that right now. We've got, 200-watt bulbs and 250-watt bulbs, various locations. Some lights are brighter than others anyway, in the
And some have a
neighborhoods.
lot of trees and you can't even see them at all.
Yeah.
I am not clear on the direction we're giving, if we're giving any direction at all, then we want more work to be done. And I'm not sure.
I thought we were gonna replace the residential lights as they went out, because we do know that we want to replace the light bulbs. It's just whether we did it all at once or sporadically. And if we decided that we wanted to do them all at once, we've already started anyway. Anyway, does that make
Culvert
sense?
Oh,
Not with LEDs.
Not with
Not with
LEDs.
LEDs.
No, not quite. If one light goes out in the residential area, that's gonna get replaced with an LED.
If we go forward with this agreement.
And then the entire neighborhood's gonna get replaced at the same time.
No.
That's what I'm asking.
No, as the lights go out, if one light goes out,
In
we're
a
replacing
neighborhood.
with an LED.
One at a time.
Let's confine it to a neighborhood. We're talking replacing LEDs
One of them.
by attrition in neighborhoods only. And we're talking complete replacement.
Yeah, not the whole neighborhood.
I didn't, wait, I cut,
It could happen. A whole neighborhood could go out.
I'm talking.
Okay, I'll let you talk.
Resident, yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Residential only,
Mhm.
all right?
Mhm.
Friends, residential.
Mhm.
If a light goes out in the residential area, you replace it with LED. We don't replace the entire residential area until everything's necessary to go out.
Unless we make a decision later to do that.
Unless we make a decision later to do that. if we got
Because
the
he's gonna
money to
come
do
up
it.
with some more
Okay,
figures.
close parens, new, open parens, minor and major arterial. We make a decision to replace those in their entirety because of their visual impact and because of their visibility to the entire community. Yes or no?
Well, I thought he was gonna come back with some.
That's the question that I don't think you're ready to answer tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking, that's why I'm trying to articulate what we don't know we know.
Keep that for the minutes.
Was it, yeah, was that?
Gordon said we don't know what we know. Okay.
Well,
We
what's the
close
harm-
this thing.
You know, what's the harm on a thoroughfare of replacing a burnout one with an LED today, knowing that next month we're gonna come in and do the rest of them? That would just save us some money. And we've got burnt out lights today on our thoroughfares. We always do.
The only thing would be is if you decide you don't want to replace with LED and you want to stay with high pressure sodium on the thoroughfares.
No, we don't want to. That we're agreed on, we gotta go LED.
Then
Yeah.
we're back to the question
Yeah.
was, how do you want to replace the thoroughfares and whether you.
Well, we start, just like we're starting in the neighborhoods, we make a decision after we get some more numbers whether we want to do a settlement or not.
Right. Yeah, my only question is sporadically or all at once? I want to know the real money. That's it.
Okay.
But in the meantime, we replaced the burned out ones
Yeah,
with new
Kevin
ones.
wanted to go ahead and start. I said, I don't care. I just want to know how much it would cost if we did all of them, because that is kind of tacky. Yellow.
Where one burns out, we
White.
replace with an
Yellow.
LED, and anybody complains of, well, that one's a white one and that one's a yellow, we say, thank you very much for your input. Sooner or later, they're all gonna be white.
And hopefully not in 5 or 6 years, if the money comes in.
Yeah, we.
That's
so-
Okay,
We're
so
hoping-
anywhere they burn out, we're replacing with LED, thoroughfare or neighborhood.
I think so.
Okay.
Because,
And then we'll
and then if we get the figures
Can I throw
back.
one monkey wrench into this question?
No, no.
Are we doing historicals, post-ops too, or just overheads?
What exists, what
Well,
exists already.
historicals are only exist on Main Street.
On Main Street, correct.
So, so the question is, if they start going out on Main Street, do you want to just replace it through attrition, or do you want us to go in and knock it all on Main Street?
Well, they're significantly different architecturally, visually, and we have two on one mast, and they're bam, 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 bam. I think that one, if we decide that that is one that we want to, we need to do that.
You want to tell
all
them
at
how you
once.
got those lights on Main Street with the Main Street and the grant, and then we moved them?
No, he doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, I bet.
Okay.
So, 'cause we-
Okay.
remember that? We moved them.
Oh, yeah, no,
Okay.
they're too bright.
We gotta close this.
They were too bright, we moved them. They were yellow too.
Thank you, Kevin. All right. How many people are out there? Does anybody know?
I'll go look.
There's a couple of proclamations.
The reason I'm asking, we've got 4 proclamations, we've got a special presentation, we've got people out there waiting for these. I kind of want to not hold them up, see if we can we do these, break for for the 2 executive sessions, and come back out.
This is executive session.
Now, I know this one can be done at the end.
That one, yeah, I don't know if y'all.
So-
I'd say 30 to 40, Mayor.
30 to 40 people.
I figured. So it's well, if we have a consensus, we'll convene a regular meeting, we'll get rid of the proclamations, the special presentations. We'll go into executive session on item 2, which is the boards and commissions. Settle those, get back out there, and we'll do item 1 at the end of the meeting. By that time, everybody will be gone anyway.
But, so, item 2, why are we going into executive session?
Because we have to. Because those are particular boards and commissions.
But we already went to executive session.
It's only on there if you felt like you needed to. I don't know that if y'all
We
need
don't
to.
need to. We already did it. We went to your executive session, and we decided them, and we came out. We don't need it.
It's up to y'all.
We
We're
already
already
did
gonna
it.
be in
There,
executive
it's there if
session
you want to
before
use it, if you don't want to use it.
Yeah, we already did it.
Yeah.
It's just give you all flexibility.
Do y'all feel that we're in executive session on the boards and commissions, or we're set?
So,
Because what-
But we don't ever want to talk about it again.
EDC, what's the other one?
Next year.
Planning zone.
Let me up.
EDC, Board of Adjustments, and Civil Service. And TIF. We did all that. So what o'clock before?
Yeah, 1:30,
107.
107.
106.
whatever. Not one.
He was late.
You remember? Okay, so we can dispense with executive session number 2. We'll do executive session number 1 at the end. Okay? So we're set with my 7:16.
All of our elected officials assembled here. Grant them wisdom and insight amid conflicting interests and issues. Grant them a sense of welfare for the true needs of our community, a keen thirst for justice and fairness for all. Grant them confidence in what is good and fitting, for the ability to work together, even though there might be disagreements, to continue to have a vision for where we as the community need to go. I pray for their peace and satisfaction, for governing to the best of their ability, so that all might find opportunity and promise here in Duncanville. I pray for the agenda set before this council this evening, and that it may benefit all who live and work here in and around our beloved city of Duncanville. May your blessings, may your continued presence guide and direct each of us. For I lift this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing and join me for pledges to our flag of the United States and the flag of Texas. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. You may be seated. The next item on the agenda is the mayor's report. And tonight I would like to do something special and something very, very different for my mayor's report. Oh, before doing that, I would also like to say that we're very thankful to our police department. 3 new police officers are going to be sworn in, which increases our force and reduces our vacancies to 6 now. So that's a very positive thing. So we're thankful to many, many people that are applying and to those qualifying officers. Oh, one bit of housekeeping, live stream is not working at the moment, so that's why this screen is empty. And unfortunately, we won't be going out into live stream tonight until things can get fixed, if they get fixed at all. So I just want to let everybody know that. Duncanville, its logo or motto says it's the city of champions. In my perspective, during a town hall meeting before I became elected, I made a statement that a champion is not just an athlete, which is what the City of Champions, that tagline, has come to be likened to for our city. Yes, we have a great legacy of championship athletic teams, and that's where it stems from. In my perspective, we have champions in this city across many, many different aspects of life. We have the arts, we have education, we have business, we have media. Individuals that excel in each of these particular aspects of life in our society are champions in their own right. Tonight, go figure, I don't get this. Somebody very special in our city. And I learned about this young lady through her recognition of her talent in art. Her family is here tonight. Yeah, I've had a long day. I guess it's getting to me. Heavenly, would you come up here? And that is her name. Beautiful young lady, Heavenly Nahar. Heavenly is an extremely, uniquely talented artist. Not only is she an artist in artwork, she's a potter. Some of the things that she turns out with her hands are enormously beautiful. And in the 8th grade, Heavenly began a project to paint a picture of your great-grandmother, great-grandmother, Bisabuela. And it took her a few months to do this. Do you want to describe it, or do you want me to? She chose the medium of wood, raw wood. And in so doing, she made a portrait of her great-grandmother. And she was very concerned about using watercolor because it could seep into the grain of the wood. And she wanted to retain the grain of the wood to be able to show through. So she changed to acrylic, right? Did I get that right? And the outcome of this piece of art was so different, so wonderful, so excellent, so unique, that it was chosen to be displayed in the capital of the United States of America. And it's here tonight. I asked the family to bring it. Paul, would you mind bringing it up? Now, she just got it back. It was on display in the United States Capitol for a year, and it's just come home. And I invite you, if you stay through the whole meeting, I don't know if you will or not, but this picture is so beautiful. And Buisabella is still with us, right? Yeah. So the wood, the texture of the wood forms part of the composition of the painting itself. And if you can see it from a distance, it's just moving to see how she does this. So I want to recognize Heavenly as a champion of our city, the very first in my term of office as a champion in the city of Duncanville. And I have a certificate of excellence presented to Heavenly Nahar, is hereby named as a Duncanville City Champion in recognition for standards of excellence and being awarded national recognition for artwork titled Buisabella. October 16th, 2018, I signed this. And to go along with it, a very special medallion from the city of Duncanville, from the City of Champions. And you're the very first to receive this. Congratulations.
I just want to say thank you to you and the council, and thank you for recognizing me and my artwork.
For a picture, I'd like your family to come up. So we get the whole family together. And Councilwoman Jameson, the Nahars are a family in District 5. And I would love for you to be with us for our picture.
Just move the picture. If you ask me why I got so emotional, I can't answer you. I have no clue where all that had to come from, but that's the way it is. Council members' reports. Any? Council member Cooks.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. I wanted to announce again about our monthly lunch, laugh, and learn meet and greet at the for Duncanville District 4 residents, and of course open to anyone who else would like to attend. Come out to get acquainted with other members of District 4. Our special guest this month is going to be our own city manager, Kevin Hupman, who will talk about the proposed 2018 bond program. So if you wanted to have some one-on-one time with Kevin, this is a great time to do that. It's October the 25th, 2018. First session begins at 11:30 to 1. Second session is 5:30 to 7 at the Luby's Cafeteria here at Duncanville. So I encourage all to come out and hear more about the proposed 2018 bond program. And our own special city manager will be our special guest, Kevin Hupman. So I invite all to come out. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilmember McBurnett.
I'd just like to report, last Thursday, went to the Wintergreen Road meeting that they had regarding the process on it and how it's going to progress. I also want to thank Grady Smithy and Dave Galbraith for being there and letting them know in the cooperation that we've had between the county, and thank you for being there.
Thank you. Any further reports? Seeing none, city manager's report. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 2, proclamations and presentations. The first proclamation is recognizing the 125th anniversary of First Christian Church. Councilmember McBurnett.
Whereas the year 2018 marks the 125th anniversary of First Christian Church, Duncanville, Texas, which continues to be dedicated to the service of God and humanity, and whereas we give pause, honor, and praise this day for the deep and abiding Christian commitment of those who in faith began this work in 1893, and for those who have given so unselfishly during these many years to help work, grow, and thrive, provide valuable spiritual services where the need was great, and whereas the entire community has benefited from the charity and Christian influence from this church has exerted through the years and the many facets of its outreach and practical assistance to the needy, and whereas it's a pleasure to extend this expression of our esteem and best wishes to the members of this congregation on the memorable occasion of this 125th anniversary. Now, therefore, on behalf of our Honorable Mayor, Barry Gordon, for the City of Duncanville, we urge all citizens of Duncanville and surrounding communities to join together in recognition and appreciation for the members, past and present, of the congregation of First Christian Church for their commitment and Christian contributions to our entire extended community.
Just would again like to say thank you. I just got here, so I'm kind of receiving the work of others, the accolades for others' work, so. Okay. But would like to also extend for the community, if you'd like to join us, we would love to have you be a part of the celebration. Obviously, a church in a community does not work by itself, and so it must depend upon the life and the citizens of the community. And so we are thrilled to continue to be part of the ongoing ministry of Duncanville's community and to be able to help that, and hoping for another 125 at some point down the road. And invite you all to come for worship. If not worship, then lunch. We would be glad to have you come on the 26th of this month to join with us. And City Council would be glad to have you there as well. Thank you.
Next is a proclamation recognizing the Duncanville Community Chorus. Councilmember Cooks.
whereas, oh gosh, great. Great group of people. Maybe I should sing this.
They are going to sing while they're here,
I
aren't
want
they?
everybody to run, so I better- All right, thank you. Whereas the Duncanville Community Chorus has been invited to perform as a part of the Distinguished Concert International New York Concert Series for the major concert featuring Hannah Bazaar under the banner of DCINY Artistic Director Dr. Jonathan Griffin at the world-famous Carnegie Hall in New York City on November 25th, 2018, and whereas the invitation extended to the Duncanville Community Chorus by Distinguished Concert International New York is due to the extremely high quality of Duncanville Chorus Group and the exceptional direction of the director, Nadia Tour, and whereas 18 singers from the Duncanville area are representing our city at the Carnegie Hall in New York, including 2 distinguished Duncanville High School chorus students, and whereas many business, churches, civic clubs, individuals are helping sing Duncanville Community Chorus by sponsorship, including but not limited to the Rotary Club of Duncanville, the Southwest Printing and Copying, Duncanville Chamber of Commerce, Duncanville Noon Lions Club, First Presbyterian Church, Duncanville First Presbyterian Church Women's Ministry, Duncanville First Baptist Church, Grace Place Church of Christ, and 28 families who by generosity have made this trip happen. Now, therefore, the Honorable Barry L. Gordon, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, Texas, do hereby congratulate and recognize Duncanville Community Chorus for their musical excellence as they join the other outstanding chorus for Distinguished Concert Singers in International Concert Series. Thank you very much for representing Duncanville.
Thank you. This is Nadia Thorpe. She's our choir director, and she's the reason that this is happening. We sang Messiah. We've sung as a community chorus for a number of years, and we sang Messiah last year at Christmas for our Christmas concert. And Nadia went home and she posted on Facebook, "I can't believe what just happened. I just directed Messiah." Do you remember? Yes. And then she's like, "I wonder what else the Lord has." Well, 2 weeks later, I should let you tell the story. What happened?
Well, we get a phone call or an email from a gentleman who was scrolling YouTube looking for a group to fill a vacancy. Another group had dropped out of the event, and so he reached out to us. And thankfully, we accepted that invitation, and so we're working hard to make it happen. And we're going. It's going to happen. We're going. Thank you.
So this community's been great to support us. If you can sing, we would like to see you at rehearsal. And we'll be calling you, so you just let us know. But this community has a lot of talent. And thank you, Nadia. Thank you. She's just driven, and it's just been great. And so we want to shine for Duncanville, and we're happy that we get to do this. And the community has supported us so that we can. So thank you.
Next on our agenda is a proclamation recognizing October 2018 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Councilmember Jameson will present that. Apparently not, so.
Whereas domestic violence is a pattern of assaultive and coercive behaviors such as physical, psychological, sexual, and economic abuse, including social isolation and stalking, that individuals use to maintain power and control over their intimate partners. And whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's dignity, safety, and basic human rights, and whereas domestic violence crosses all ethnic, racial, economic, age, educational, and religious lines, and whereas domestic violence is the single largest cause of injury and homicide for women, and whereas children who are exposed to domestic violence experience feelings of terror, isolation, guilt, helplessness, and grief, and have a higher risk of substance abuse, engaging in criminal behavior, and becoming victims of crime. And whereas it is incumbent on every resident to aid and assist those suffering from domestic abuse and let victims know that support is available. And whereas during the month of October, the Duncanville Police Department will be intensifying efforts to promote public understanding of family violence, increasing sensitivity to victims, while emphasizing the need for citizen involvement in the efforts to reduce family violence. Now, therefore, Barry Gordon, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, Texas, do hereby proclaim October 2018 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and ask all citizens in the City of Duncanville to join me in promoting domestic violence awareness and thanking the Duncanville Police Department for its efforts in serving and supporting those affected by domestic violence.
Accepting is Police Chief Brown.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Ms. Jameson. Ms. Smith could not make it this evening. Many of you may be aware, a couple of years ago, there was a domestic violence incident that impacted the West Southwest. Several individuals were killed, and Ms. Smith was unfortunately not able to make it this evening. So on behalf of Ms. Smith, I'm going to accept the proclamation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 3 on our agenda, which is citizens input. Individuals who have chosen to speak to City Council on any topic have submitted cards to me, which I have in hand. And individuals that do speak are asked to limit their comments to, well, in fact, will be limited to 2 minutes on their comments. And in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the City Council cannot discuss issues raised or make any decisions at this time. However, issues may be referred to city staff for research and possible future action. So as I call on you, please come up, state your name, and give us your address. The first individual is Tai Feng Lu.
So I face this way or this way?
Use that microphone. No, the other.
The other side.
The other side.
This one here, miss. This one right here.
Oh, okay. Yes. Good evening, Mayor, Councilman, Councilwoman, and the city manager, the attorney. My topic is the work ethic versus the police power. Okay. The officer Chris arrested me on October 11th, early morning, without allowing me to close the garage and turn off the stove, 2 of them, one in the kitchen, one in the utility room. And instead, he invited the code enforcement to my house and accomplished rampage operation while I was not home. And they left the garage door intentionally not locked, so people can pull up from outside, okay, even though it's closed down. So this detailed thing, and they say they get the Bill Nealon's sign, but they try to force Bill Nealon judge to sign interior rampage operation too, and that's overpower judge, which is not right. And his supervisor, Mr. Youngs, back him up. I'm the most clear-minded person. I lost a lot of stuff in the backyard, and I listed on this paper. I'm going to send it to Leslie Thomas because I know her background is attorney, and they should straighten out the work ethic. I'm the most clear-minded person from the beginning to end, okay? And so that's what I emphasize. They try to assess me mentally insane. Unfortunately, they stole my dog inside the garage, and the red car with 4 wheels, 2 drawers, that I'm senior citizen. I need to use that to carry or transfer heavy stuff. It's inside the garage. That's outright robbery, okay? Done by government policemen. That's not right. I mean, the exterior stuff, the garden, the table, and the 2 chairs, plus the aloe vera plant hang on the tree. What's good, they should left for me. And plus a lot of winter clothes. It's now winter coming, 41 degrees. I needed those clothes. And it's outright, I left something in the front yard for donation, and they couldn't pick up because they did a rampage operation, totally throw in the dumpster. That's not right. That's...
Okay, Mrs. Fay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next individual is Mr. Grady Smithy.
Grady Smithy, 1806 Cedar Hill Road, Duncanville resident since 1950. Former member of the council for 22 years. During that 22 years, I was very fortunate and had developed a good working relationship with TxDOT in Dallas County and was able to bring about $82 million in the city for outside road projects. And one of them, I appreciate Mr. Burnett mentioning tonight, one of them I didn't think was ever going to get done. You know, we started, Dennis and I conceived of it in 1991. We sold it to the county. The county built a road that was a bypass. So while we were tearing down a bridge on one road, the people that were in our school district that had to come from where they lived in DeSoto could get over to here. And so that's how we did that offset intersection that had 30 some odd wrecks and 1 fatality. That was an unintended consequence, certainly. But anyway, we started that thing in 27 years ago, and I just want to know, then tell Don, I was really proud to be over there the other night whenever they gave us the time frame on it, and they said it would be done by 2020. I may live long enough to see that. I'm only 76 years old. Now, the second project that I started that year was I went to the county judge and asked him to resuscitate Loop 9. Loop 9 had been planned, South Loop 9 had been planned, and it had been dropped off the plans in the late 1960s whenever they came through with I-20. But as population came this way, we realized we needed to do that. And we were able to get all the cities involved to put up some money, and the county put up some money to match it, and so we started a feasibility thing in 1991. Now, I may not live to see that one done, but at least I'll get to see maybe they bought most of the right-of-way for the first segment, so maybe I'll get to see part of that. Earlier in the year, I asked TxDOT to give us a couple of Texas turnarounds. And when I found that they had not included that in it, and they told the city before they told me, but they finally got around to calling me last week and tell me, okay, we're going to get those 2 Texas turnarounds, and they're going to let them in 2020, along with some projects that they already have. I just want to say I've enjoyed my opportunity to work with y'all for all these years, trying to get as many roads done as we could in Duncanville, and I want to give full credit to Dennis Schwartz for designing them all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next individual is Gail Slager.
Gail Sliger, 1405 South Main, Duncanville, Texas. I want to address the council tonight on the issue of boards and commissions. Understand from various sources that there's been a lot of discussion about boards and commissions. As a citizen who has volunteered many times to serve wherever it was needed, wherever I was asked to serve, I find it unconscionable that we would find reasons not to accept the time and talents of volunteer citizens to serve this community. We may not all agree. We may not agree on principle. We should have those discussions. But we should not decide who will serve this community simply because we do not agree with their policies. We did not elect the council to be our moral mentors. That should come from us and our God. I have a real problem with us deciding which citizens can serve this city simply because we do not agree. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes all of the citizen input for tonight. Moving on to item number 4. Item number 4 is our consent agenda. City Secretary, please read the consent agenda items.
4A, consider the minutes for the September 4th City Council regular meeting, September 18th City Council regular meeting, October 3rd special meeting, October 4th special meeting, and October 8th special meeting minutes. 4B, consider a resolution authorizing the procurement of traffic signal control cabinets through Paradigm Traffic Systems, Inc. for the unit prices awarded bid award through Buy Board Cooperative Purchasing Contract Number 524-17 and the expenditure amount of $50,000. 4C, consider a resolution authorizing the procurement of non-visual accessible pedestrian push buttons from Consolidated Traffic Control Inc. through HGAC Buy Board Cooperative Contract Number PE-05-17 and the expenditure amount of $74,762. 4D, consider a resolution authorizing the procurement of LED illuminated street name signs from Consolidated Traffic Controls Inc. through HGAC Buy Board Cooperative Contract Number PE-05-17 and the expenditure amount of $89,550. 4E, consider a resolution approving the terms and conditions of Professional Service Agreement Number 19-008 for sanitary sewer evaluation services of Basin DA with Burgess Nyepel Inc. for a total cost not to exceed $99,925. 4F, consider a resolution authorizing services to be provided by Tetra Tech Inc. for the development of disaster debris management plan for the cities of Cedar Hill, Duncanville, and Lancaster through the HGAC by Cooperative Number HP08-17 in the amount of $83,070. 4G, consider a resolution authorizing a contract between the cities of Duncanville and DeSoto and the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center to provide paramedic continuing education to DeSoto Fire Rescue and the Duncanville Fire Department in the amount of $65,450, with the City of Duncanville's cost for services being $31,450. 4F, consider a resolution authorizing the purchase of personal computer hardware and related equipment from Dell USA through the Texas Department of Information Resources contract in the estimated amount of $150,000. 4I, consider a resolution authorizing the award of RFP number 18-107 for the official newspaper designation to Focus Daily News through the city's competitive bid process and the unit amounts bid with an estimated annual expenditure of $16,000. 4J, consider a resolution approving the interlocal agreement between the City of Duncanville and the Duncanville Independent School District for the provision of law enforcement services and mutual aid, including the use of the Duncanville Police Department holding facility. 4K, consider a resolution approving the terms and conditions of an interlocal agreement between the City of Louisville, Texas, and the City of Duncanville for the purchase of goods and services. 4L, consider a resolution approving the terms and conditions of an agreement for street lighting services by and between Encore Electric Delivery Company, LLC, and the City of Duncanville.
Before accepting a motion, a question for the city attorney.
Yes, Mayor.
During our briefing session, there are 2 items for individual consideration that the council felt should be moved to the consent. And I need direction on how to correctly do that, please.
If with the council's consent, if no one objects, you can move those 2 items if the city secretary would be kind enough to read them to your consent agenda.
Those would be under item 5 for the agenda, items for individual consideration. Those are items D as in David and E as in easy. City Secretary, please read those 2 items.
5D, consider an ordinance amending Chapter 9A, flood damage prevention, providing for a new section 9A-17. 5E, consider an ordinance amending Chapter 20, water, sewer, and sewage disposal by amending Article 5, general service disposal standards, and adopting Article 9, right? Fats, oils, and grease to provide the regulations for fats, oils, and grease generated by non-domestic users of the publicly owned treatment works within the City of Duncanville.
I'll accept the motion to move these 2 items to the consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to move these to the item.
We have a motion and a second to move these 2 items to the consent agenda. Please vote. Thank you. I will now accept a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
So move, Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Please vote. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5A. Conduct a public hearing and consider an ordinance amending Appendix A, Article 12L, Downtown Duncanville District, quotes DD of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to provide regulations and standards for outside display of legal conforming uses, regulations for occasional parking lot / tent sales, and outside storage.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Chastity Allen Benson, City Planner. The request before you tonight is to look at amending the Downtown Duncanville District to address outdoor display, outside storage, and occasional parking lot and tent sales. If you all recall, there was a recommendation in the comprehensive plan that we review all of our regulations, but specifically our downtown district, to make sure that it is moving forward towards the vision of what we wanted to see for downtown. And we will be soon begin updating our entire zoning ordinance. We did have some business owners that came before this council and indicated that they had some concerns with regard to how outside display was currently regulated in the downtown district, and expressed those concerns. And so we discussed this with the council during a briefing at your June 19th meeting. Council gave direction to staff. We discussed some of the possible amendments. Council directed staff to meet with the downtown business owners and begin drafting an ordinance to address those concerns. So on August 30th, staff did meet with some of the downtown business and property owners, and we had a really good discussion during that time. We had some of the attendees that were there were business owners who have retail sales that sell used items. We also had Steve Martin from the Chamber of Commerce, Monty Anderson with Main Station. So we had a lot of business owners that attended that meeting. And the primary concerns, as we expressed during our briefing to you all in June, that they were concerned about the definition of outside display, the allowed location of outside display, and the inability to display used items. So just point of clarification, there is outside display currently permitted in the downtown district, but it is regulated as it is citywide. And the current provisions only allow for new merchandise to be displayed, which was one of the major points of contention if the retail sales were for antiques or consignment store, things of that nature. Also, the current definition of outside display limits the display to be under a cover of an awning or a roof overhang. And so there were some businesses in the downtown district who the buildings themselves did not have that 15-foot overhang, and therefore they weren't able to display items outside of their business. So those were some of the primary concerns. There was mention also related to outside storage. Again, we have not modified the definition of outside storage. Outside storage is still defined as it is everywhere in the city. We just did want to clarify that it's always been prohibited in the downtown district. It's actually prohibited in all districts except the C1, C2, and industrial districts. So given the pedestrian nature of downtown, we did, and per the staff discussion with council and the discussion with the downtown business owners, we thought it appropriate to address outside display differently in the downtown district than citywide. Some of those modifications specifically would be to add an outside display section to the downtown district to clarify that those regulations would apply specifically to downtown. We would allow for legal conforming retail uses to display used items if they have a certificate of occupancy to sell used items. So if they are an antique store, consignment store, thrift store, they have a certificate of occupancy to sell those items, they would be able to display those items, which they currently could not do that. We would allow for the display of the items 15 feet from the structure, no taller than 5 feet, and not require it to be under a roof overhang. And so I'll show you a picture of some examples where that might come into play. We do recognize the concerns that council presented with regard to appearance. So we wanted to make sure that we added a provision related to orderly appearance and requiring the display to come in at the close of business. So it could not stay out past the hours of operation. Also maintaining a minimum access requirements of ADA to address the concerns about blocking pathways for walking and things of that nature. We would also prohibit the outside display in any required parking lots or fire lanes. Again, the items for display could only be the items that are sold by that tenant, and that they should be displayed on appropriate fixtures, such as shelves or racks, unless they are wholly self-contained, such as furniture. The concern that was expressed by, I believe, Councilman Jamison was related to making sure they didn't just hang things on trees or other fixtures, and so we added the provision to allow it to be displayed on appropriate fixtures unless it was wholly contained, such as furniture. So these are examples of outside display that would, under our current ordinance, would be prohibited, but under the proposed ordinance would be allowed because the items would be used and they are displayed adjacent to the building, but they're not under an overhang, which is the current requirement. So these are examples of what would be permitted under the proposed ordinance amendment. These are examples of prohibited outside display for the parking lot area, required parking, and then those items on the picture on the left are obviously not items that are sold by the merchant. So these would be prohibited under what we're proposing as amendments to the ordinance. Just for an additional information, we provided to the downtown business owners also some other options for them to increase their visibility that they currently can do under the downtown district standards, which are blade signs and sandwich board signs. We just made that clear to them that those are additional opportunities for them to increase their visibility. The other standard that was addressed during our briefing with council and discussion with the downtown business owners was regarding occasional parking lot and tent sales. Again, this is currently regulated the same citywide, and so there was discussion about increasing the occurrences allowed in the downtown district. So the proposed modification would increase the number of occurrences from 2 times to 4 times during a 6-month period, not to exceed 20 days. The current provision is 10 days within the 6-month period with no more than 10 consecutive days. Again, this would be added to the downtown district. Again, would only be able to be conducted by the business that has a certificate of occupancy, and the occasional parking lot and tent sales do require permits through building inspection, so that's how we track how often they are occurring. There was discussion during our meeting with the downtown business owners. A lot of them liked the idea of increasing the occurrences and even talked about the possibility of coordinating with some of the other businesses to do them on the same days to increase visibility. And then there was further discussion about whether they would want to do them on the same days as Duncan Switch and things like that to just promote more activity in downtown. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend unanimously approval of the ordinance amendments as they're outlined in your staff report. We provided the red line markup so that you can see the addition to the downtown district standards. And I'm available for questions.
Well, okay, this is a public hearing.
Yes.
So at this time, I would open this to a public hearing at 8:10. Anybody wishing to address the City Council on this particular matter, please step forward. Seeing as how no one is stepping forward to address the City Council on this public hearing, I'll accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Please vote. Thank you. Public hearing is closed at 8:11. At this time, the council will accept the motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any further discussion? Any questions? Seeing none, please vote. Thank you. Moving on to item 5B. Consider an ordinance amending Chapter 5, the Duncanville Code of Ordinances, to add Article 7, quote, residential rental registration regulations, close quote, sections 5-200 through 5-211, providing for definitions, providing the powers and duties of the building official as the designated administrator, providing for the establishment of a residential rental registration program fee, providing a penalty of fine not to exceed $2,000. Mr. Frederickson.
Yes, Mayor, members of council, thank you. Before you use the rental registration ordinance that you have been briefed on a couple of occasions. Just real quick, the applicable guidance, this is to help create high-quality neighborhoods and also become a best practices organization. It's recommended in the comp plan, and also it's also a work plan item. So the goal of the program, briefly, is to proactively identify the substandard deteriorated housing stock that's in the city of Duncanville. And by doing that, we want to identify the single-family residential properties. And of course, we did get y'all's blessing to expand that definition to include townhomes and duplexes within that definition for the rental registration. And those are going to be any properties that are being leased or rented for more than 30 days. Our goal is also to get more property information, not only the ownership information, but property manager information. We want, this will also include better communication with those owners and their tenants as we begin to build the program. And this, we hope, ultimately will aid in preserving our housing stock throughout the city of Duncanville. And also, again, facilitate neighborhood stabilization and help safeguard the health, safety, and welfare of the properties and the residents within those properties. So within Duncanville, we estimate about 13,813 units total. Of those, we're projecting that 4,724 are rental properties. This number includes multifamily. So when you back out the number of multifamily units, we come up with about 2,788. And I might stress that that is an estimated number. We could have more, obviously, units that would be applied to that, but that's our number right now. In your budget, I might just add that you did include, when we approved the budget, an administrative assistant that will oversee the beginning and the building of this program for the inspection program. It's important to note that this person will also be responsible for resurrecting the multifamily inspection program as well. That's also within the ordinances. By doing this, we'll cover the gap for all rental properties within the city of Duncanville. Just examples of the properties covered, well, let me go back, your typical single-family unit, duplex property, or even townhome properties that are rented out. The impacts, again, there'll be a $25 annual registration fee that'll become mandatory for all rental properties within Duncanville. There'll be a city inspection program. It'll be $100 per each inspection. That's basically a pass-through to our contractor, Bureau Veritas, who will be performing the inspections for us. If there's a reinspection that occurs, another $100 charge will be applied. We will also require new inspections for every 2 years, or if they have a new tenant that changes out. We're looking at not just exterior, but what's really, I think, important for this ordinance is that we're looking at the interior of the property. You know, right now, we really can't see that unless we had a court order or something. This actually allows us to go in there and inspect the property, again, to make sure that they're complying with our codes. And these are just samples of the codes. Obviously, the new ordinance here, the International Property Maintenance Code, Residential Code, and any other state or local codes that are applicable to our rental registration ordinance. No RCO, rental certificate of occupancy, will be issued until all taxes, liens, utility charges, or outstanding code issues have been satisfied. So I think that's going to be an extremely important hammer that we'll be able to apply when we adopt the ordinance, or when the council adopts the ordinance. What else is in the ordinance? Again, briefly, that there is a requirement that if there is going to be eviction that takes place, that they have to notify the city within 48 hours. We've had a number of circumstances where you know, one morning you wake up and there's all their possessions are on the sidewalk or in the front of their house. And again, unfortunately, if you have severe weather, winds, or that kind of thing, it blows around and it causes an issue for the neighborhood as a whole. So we're going to require them to let us know. We've also increased the fine amount from $500 to $2,000. So when this takes effect, which will be January 1, and I'll get to that here in a minute, when we do a public education campaign, but January 1, we're going to expect everybody to register their rental properties within Duncanville. This, of course, fine doesn't include any other kind of code issues that may come up. And one other important feature is that any kind of property manager or agent needs to live within the North Texas, Central Texas Council of Governments region, so that they're local, that they at least can get to the property when we need them to be there in case something does happen. We have that same requirement, as you may recall, in our commercial vacant building ordinance as well, that they have to be within at least driving distance to get here. What are we looking for? Just a couple of, or just several unsafe structures, property sanitation, the conditions of the sidewalks, driveways, do they have accessory structures that they're allowed to have, conditions of hot tubs, pools, spas, are they being taken care of, are they mosquito havens, infestation issues, as I mentioned before, the exterior and interior conditions of the home. We're looking at water, plumbing systems, sanitary systems, mechanical, electrical, and fire hazards. So we're covering the full gamut of issues that may occur within a property. So the proposed timeline, if council does adopt this ordinance this month, from now till the end of the year will be begin our public information campaign, social media, flyers, and get any way we can get the message out. And then we'll also begin to identify the properties through our records and comparing them to DCAD records of the rental properties within Duncanville. Can I tell you that we'll get every single property between now and then? Probably not. But as we become aware of those properties, if they get turned in and they at least get to come to our attention, then we will add them to our list. And then enforcement begins January 1. This is an aggressive schedule. We are actually trying to hire an onboard administrative assistant to run the program as we speak. We are fortunate we have received a number of applicants, but they're going to be responsible for building the program from scratch. And then, when January 1 comes in, begin to schedule the inspections for each of those properties. So, any questions from the council?
I'm curious, how are you going to enforce that the rental agent is within the North Central Texas Council of Government?
We're going to ask that they are doing business within those 16 counties within the North Central Texas Council of Governments. So if they come and they apply and they give us the information, just like we do with the vacant building, they'll be required to give us that information, and we'll check that.
And
So if they're like
not-
out of state or something like that,
Yeah.
we'll go back and say, well, that will not apply. You need to have an agent that is going to be within that geographical area.
So they're gonna have to hire someone then?
If
that's
they
within-
have that agent, if there's just an owner and they're doing business as themselves, then they wouldn't have to if they're within the area. What we're trying to do is look
So
at.
if it's the owner and they don't live within the area,
Yeah.
then it's okay.
Well,
But if they've hired an agent, they have to.
Yeah,
be.
yes, ma'am. And what we're looking at is those properties where like investor properties where they have multiple properties, but they have an agent that is not accessible. That's what we're trying to, when they're operating really as a business and not maybe a one-off investor kind of thing. So we want them to be within the area.
Yep.
Mr. Cooks?
I do like the program, Assistant City Manager Paul. I do have questions. With the increased number of leasing property or rental properties we have throughout Duncanville, that's a very huge number. And we know the investors are coming in quickly to buy up houses in Duncanville. I'd like to know if we can be proactive and also helping others by having some type of home ownership workshop for those that live in Duncanville that perhaps want to purchase those homes. And I know that's not something we do as a city, but being proactively talking to home ownership that allows that person to care for their home even more so if they live within the city of Duncanville. So have we considered any type of proactive to talk about home ownership as well?
We haven't as part of this program, just because of the breadth of this program by itself. I think that's something that we're just going to kind of have in a different silo. I understand the policy goal there to do it, but it has not been considered as part of this goal. I mean, I think to your point, home ownership, the owner-occupied homes is ultimately the goal. And so this may, I can't promise that this will be something that's going to push people toward home ownership, but ultimately it's going to push owners to, if they're renting it, to take responsible care of their property. But unfortunately, to answer your question, it does not include the facet that you mentioned.
Great.
Good idea, but we're not set up for that. We would not have the wherewithal then, because you're pointing them to, getting mortgages and trying to help them out. That's, I think, something we can look at, maybe some kind of information or whatever that we could provide that might help guide or something like that.
Well, then I would hope we would consider thinking about a second or third party to talk about this part. We don't have to take it on as a city, but someone else know that we're moving towards that, and it will help homeowners in Duncanville to be homeowners and not just renters. So
Understood. Good point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How are we going to know when a property goes from private ownership to a rental/investor?
Well, we're not. I mean, if it just occurs and that they sell that property, we wouldn't know unless it gets self-reported or if somebody turns it in, basically. To set up the program, what we're going to do is try to do a cross reference from utility bills to DCAD records. So we're going to try our best to look and see if there's those matches, meaning that if you've got that the names don't match, so you've got the DCAD ownership, but you have them in a different account names, that'll be our first go. But if it, let's say this thing takes effect and, 3 months later, whatever the time frame may be, and they flip the house and it becomes a rental property, we will not know that unless they self-report, or someone turns them in. However, there is a fine amount that's associated with it. So if we find out that they've done that and they haven't registered, they could be subject to that citation, and the citation amount being $2,000. So really, I think a lot of it is going to be on us and getting the public, it's going to be the public information campaign and letting everyone know that this program exists and that there is a substantial penalty for not registering the property.
So the education is going to be a major part of it.
I think it's going to be extremely important.
Is there any way to interface with the realtors to let them know that this is going into effect and that they can inform those purchasers and or sellers that there is a requirement?
I've been trying to make contact with the group, and they're putting me toward the the property manager segment of the real estate group. So I think what we want to do is get the information to them, the local realtors and so forth, so that they are aware of it. That's where I think we need to really put our resources.
So we need to understand at the outset, there could be some possibilities that things are just not going to get reported. But,
Absolutely.
you know, working it through DCAD, as you said, is going to be a very labor-intensive process.
Yes, sir.
And not knowing when to do that. I mean, to tell this individual that's going to be doing this program, you know, once a quarter, work through all the homes in the city of Duncanville to find out if
Yes,
there's
sir.
any changes. I don't know how you do a query in a database, or you could write a SQL query to do that.
Sure.
But I don't know.
Well,
That would mean getting access to the entire database maintained by DCAD for the city of Duncanville.
Yeah, you'd have to cross-reference. It's going to be a lot of work, which is why I said that having it as a January 1 enforcement date is going to be extremely aggressive for us to try to do that and cross-reference. We're not going to capture them all. And even the number that I presented, the 2,788, is just an estimate based on the latest, you know, numbers that we have for home ownership, and then backing out the rental properties. Could be more, could be less. We may have, again, I'll reference the vacant building ordinance. You know, again, we didn't have really an idea of what that total universe was as far as the number of properties, and it was extremely slow. I mean, we knew where the vacant properties were from just, you know, again, street and visual observation. It was then going back and then notifying them. We sent 1,000 letters to all the commercial business owners within Duncanville. And again, when the date came, there was not a line out the door to register. So we had to go back and say, you know, provide warnings. Again, our first inclination is not to write a citation, but it's, you know, warn you, you know, you must register your vacant building with us. And so it was a slow start. I suspect we'll probably have that with this, but as time goes on and we build the system, build the database, word of mouth, again, more public information, I think we'll get there.
So we
But
have
it'll
an
be slow.
understanding that it's a good program, it has some teeth, it is enforceable, but it's not foolproof.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Mr. Coates?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, one last thing. Thank you, Mayor. You mentioned about getting in contact with the realtors.
Mhm.
I think when you get in contact with the realtors, then you talk about the possibility of promoting home ownership. They'll also increase their information of sharing with renters of how to buy homes. So it may very easily come up without us even being involved to the point of pushing home ownership, period.
Yes,
So
sir.
just as you
That might be
mentioned
something
to
that they do
realtors,
themselves.
That's a good
Good-
selling point.
Good point.
But you also mentioned a 48-hour notice. A little bit, go back. What
Yes,
was
sir.
that 48-hour notice again?
So the 48-hour notice, council member, is in regard to, we've had in the past a number of evictions, and so we're never notified. And what happens is we find out when the eviction has already occurred and that the possessions are out on the street. And so we actually then have to go through our process of noticing the property owner and going through that process of notification before we can go out there and abate it ourselves if they're not getting it taken care of. And so you could just imagine if, you know, your street, you got this one house with all this stuff in the yard, that it could sit there for some time. In the meantime, you may have had adverse weather, you may have wind blowing, whatever, it's sitting there, or you have people that are driving by going in there and taking that stuff, but they're not actually allowed to do. That's prohibited. What we want to know is in advance if any of the owners are going to evict a tenant in that way. We want to know that in advance so that we can be ready in case they can't get that we can go through the abatement process and get that cleaned up as soon as possible. That's the reason for that provision.
Okay, good. I think it's a good one. I just had a question. If the resident, who would the resident come back to if they wanted to appeal and say, I didn't get my 48-hour notice?
Well, they're not giving the notice to the tenant, they're giving the notice to us.
Okay.
So the owner will notify the city within 48 hours. That's going to be the provision that they let us know that they will be evicting their tenant. The issue between the tenant and the owner is strictly with them.
Good.
As far as if they notified them or not, that's not going to be our concern. Our concern is on the back end when the stuff is in you know, the yard or whatever, and we're having to deal with it from a notification perspective.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, the chair will accept a motion to approve.
I move to approve, Mayor.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Please vote. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5C. Consider an ordinance amending ordinance number 2350, the fiscal year 2018-2019 master fee schedule to include residential rental property program fees in the section titled Public Works as provided in Exhibit A, to include a new library master fee schedule as provided in Exhibit B, attached hereto and incorporated herein.
Good afternoon, good evening, Mayor and Council. Up here again with me is the Library Director, Julio. So I'll present the fee schedule amendments relative to Public Works, and I'll turn it over to Julio for the library portion. So again, the two backgrounds, as we just talked about, we just approved the rental ordinance, and so now it's time to put the fees on the books, and then the library is also updating their fees. So the summary of changes for Public Works, as you can see, we have the rental annual registration fee of $25, which as Mr. Frederickson mentioned would help offset the cost of hiring the administrative assistant that would manage the program for us. We also talked about the $100 inspection and reinspection fee. There's a late fee of $50. The transaction involving the issuing of the RCO is $10, and that's multiple times if tenants change as well. And then to replace an RCO because it's damaged or lost is $10, and then an administrative fee of $10. So anytime we've got to go in and change ownership of the property, we've got to go in the middle of a year and just update an owner. That's the fee as well. And then with that, I will turn it over to Julio.
Sure. Good evening, Council. For the library, we're updating some fees, removing some barriers to access for our patrons and visitors, which removing a annual computer use card fee, which also has a family service fee associated. Reducing pricing on replacing missing library cards from $5 to $1. That helps some residents who can't afford the full fee. As well as our single-use computer pass, making that a free access for all citizens. And then we're hopefully adding reusable bags for citizens to buy, use with the library logo on it. So these are some ways that we're improving access to our resources and giving some services to our citizens. So, Brad, you want to?
Yeah, so again, the staff recommendation is for council's approval of the ordinance.
Chair will accept a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
I do have one question. Any other questions by,
Yes.
go ahead.
So the library, is that, when you said citizens, is this for Duncanville citizens only, or is that for anyone who comes into the library?
Anyone visiting the library.
Anyone who comes in. And is that going to be an issue as far as too many people, word gets out? And do you have enough resources?
No, it'll balance out for us,
Okay.
yeah.
Ms. Jameson.
So could you clarify, anybody can get a library card?
No, this is just for computer access fees to use the public computers for the day.
Okay.
Are the fees going from being assessed today to going to free? Is that something that libraries are doing across the nation or something?
Yeah, we are actually aligning with industry standards for public libraries across the nation, including some of our best Southwest cities here. So primarily removing those barriers for access to computer use on a daily basis for those residents or those visitors who can't afford that access.
Okay, so we are aligning ourselves with industry standards.
This is correct, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Seeing no additional discussion, please vote. Thank you. We will be moving on to item number 5F, since items D and E have been moved to the consent agenda. Item 5S, consider a resolution confirming the city manager's reappointment of Curtis J. Smith, Jr. as a member of the Duncanville Civil Service Commission for a 3-year term to expire October 31st, 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote. Thank you. Moving on to item number G, 5G. I will preface this by saying on the agenda it does show that the City Council has the opportunity to go into executive session considering these appointments, and since these were discussed in detail, City Council in the briefing session has decided to dispense with the executive session. So I will read item 5G. Consider appointments to various boards and commissions, including City Planning and Zoning Commission, Board of Adjustment, Duncanville Community and Economic Development Corporation Board, Park and Recreation Advisory Board, Library Advisory Board, Sign Control Board, Keep Duncanville Beautiful Board, Duncanville Neighborhood Vitality Commission, Duncanville Senior Advocacy Commission, Sister City Commission, Multicultural Social Engagement Partnership, Tri-City Animal Shelter Board, and the Tax Increment Financing Reinvestment Zone Board. The chair will accept a motion to approve these appointments.
Mayor, also, I think that was asked that the appointments would be effective as of November 1st.
November 1st.
Thank you.
So include that in the motion, whoever just chooses to make that.
I do have a question.
I'd like to make the motion that we do it, make the terms effective November 1st.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Is this for the November 1st? We're voting on, okay.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion, please? Mr. Cooks.
Not for, is it for the November 1st date? Okay, just overall. I do have in front of council members, I had a young lady that live in District 4 who, Charlotte A. Winters in front of you, who was asking for us to appoint her to the Keep Duncanville Beautiful Board. I'd like the council to look at and consider. If it's too late, then I told her that we would look at it again, but she wanted me to at least present this to us. I know, according to what we talked about, there's no vacancies or no perceived advertising vacancies in the Keep Duncanville Beautiful Board, but I'd like to submit this to the council for consideration.
Second.
And you have it in front of you.
I think we need a little clarification on procedure here. We have a motion on the floor.
Right, so I
And
assume that
now-
Mr. Cooks made a motion to amend the list to add.
Yes,
that correct?
that's what I meant, yes.
And Ms. Thomas second, so it would
So
be
now we have to
the-
open, we need to open this motion to discussion, and
Yes, sir.
we went through a very lengthy process in terms of determining individuals for these boards and commissions, and we interviewed folks. Mr. Cooks, we have not had an opportunity to interview this individual.
That's fair, but I wanted to just make sure I brought it since she asked to be a part, and I would just refer her back to next time we have an opening where we can interview her, so, but.
I believe that would probably be the best thing, since it's only fair.
There is a motion on the floor.
I know, and the motion we are discussing is whether to accept this individual to be appointed. And I have concern that we have not interviewed this individual. So if there's any other discussion, we will then take a vote to approve or disapprove the motion to appoint this individual without being interviewed. So there is a motion on the floor to approve this individual being appointed without an interview. Yes, there is. Yes.
Yes.
That's the motion he made, and that's what's been seconded. So we are now in the position of approving putting her on a board without interview. That's the motion before us.
And I'll ask the council for consideration as you look at the application. I know that we would like to interview all of the applicants here, but if you would look at the application of this resident who's been in Duncanville for the past 8 years, and for this particular board who loves to have additional people to support them, I would ask you to consider her information as in writing in front of you. And again, apologize that she was not able to appear in front of you directly, but I'm sure she'll be glad to if appointed.
Okay, please vote. The motion is defeated. We now have a motion on the floor to accept the appointments that the council has considered for boards and commissions, and we have decided in our briefing session in deference to time that we would not read each of these individually. However, the list has been incorporated. It has been made official by the city manager, and the city manager is going to be notifying individuals prior to their going into effect on November 1st. And we are making them on November 1st because there are some upcoming boards and commission meetings that are taking place, so we did not want to disrupt the current constituencies and how these boards and commissions are compromised today. So the chair will accept the motion to approve the boards and commission appointments that we have considered.
Motion's
we
already on the
have one.
floor, but I do have something else.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I move to re-add the name of Lee Burton onto the Keep Duncanville Beautiful Board. It's an open space, and her term has not been, she has not finished the end of her term.
We have a motion to add Lee Burton to the Keep Duncanville, let's find it, there it is, okay. To the Keep Duncanville Beautiful Board. Is there a second?
I'd second it.
Okay. Discussion, Mr. Cooks?
No, I have a discussion about another item.
Okay, your light's on, so I'm just.
Yeah, I have a discussion about another item before we.
Okay. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to reassign Lee Burton to the Keep Duncanville Beautiful Board. Please vote. Okay, that motion is passed. City Manager, please make a note of that. We have a motion on the floor now to complete.
That's where I was going with another question. I know we discussed board and commission of doing it as a group. I'm trying to recall how it's been done in the past. Do we go ahead and call each individual name? I know we're trying to do it for the sake of time, but I think for the piece for knowing who we did nominate for the public, should they not know that now versus waiting for the letters to be sent out?
Well,
just for the history, I want to know what have we did in the past. Have we called them out in the past? I know everybody's different, but just kind of asking in the future now.
Historically, from what I understand, the names have been read individually. It's quite a lengthy list. I think any individual that, once we approve the list, any individual that wants to know can have full access to Mr. Hugman to find out where they stand on that particular one. So we still have a motion on the floor to approve. Please vote. Okay. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number H, it's to take any necessary action as a result of the executive session. We decided in the briefing session, again in deference to our constituents and citizens that choose to attend our city council meetings, we are going to go into executive session for item number 1, which is the city council shall convene into closed executive session pursuant to section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code to discuss and deliberate matters concerning the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, to wit, property generally located east of Clark Road, west of US Highway 67, and south of Wheatland Road. So at the timestamp of 8:44, we will recess the city council meeting and move into the briefing room to have this executive session. Thank you. All right, we are reconvening City Council at 9:45 p.m. Next item on the agenda, item 6A, receive the Fire Department Quarterly Report. Thank you very much, Chief. Moving on to item B.
Well, so we can say goodnight, Mayor and Council and City Manager. I want to thank y'all for letting us do the quarterly report for the fire department. I want to talk about my staffing. Last time I spoke with y'all, I had a full house, and since then I've had retirements and I had to resign. So I've got 3 vacancies. We took a civil service exam on July the 7th to try to fill those, the 1 vacancy at that time, now the present 2 we had. Unfortunately, we went through the whole list and we went down to 1 gentleman that we're going to send through the process. He went through last week and this week, and I have a good news to announce that we're going to go ahead and hire him. He'll start on November the 5th, so that'll drop me down to 2 vacancies in the fire department. Our next civil service exam is on November the 10th, and hopefully we'll have a good list so we can make some more choices to fill some more of those vacancies that we have. Also expecting a vacancy on November the 1st. One of our 20-year vets is going to retire, so that'll probably add 1 more to our vacancy. I currently have 2 guys in paramedic school. They're doing a real good job over at El Centro College. So we're expecting to get them out somewhere near the 1st of the year. So that'll give us 2 more paramedics to work in the system. I want to go over real quick, those who didn't get to manage to go to our fire department banquet, some of our award recipients. Our firefighter of the year was Martin Garcia. Our paramedic of the year was Micah Shaw. Our fire officer of the year was Jason Wigington. And we went to blank. Oh, there we go, Cody. Our physical fitness award for the fire department was Ben Hale. Our most valuable player was Reed Sherman. The recipient of the Tim Rife Award, which is a special award in the fire department, was David Leith. He was, you all know, he retired on June the 21st. And our community service award for everything that Tanya has done through all 4 of the Southwest cities, she received our community service award. We also received, we applied for Assistance for Firefighters grant. So we received the award that we were asking for $48,000. And that's to be able to purchase 8 new P25 compatible radios for us to be able to have communication when we're deployed on the hurricane coast, for example. Also, our EMS chief, Mike Ryan, in conjunction with our community paramedics, provided CPR training for 94 teachers and students at the Duncanville High School, which we're really trying to develop that partnership with the high school to get them their training and certification that they need for their internship program. And then myself and Stephen Hatley go down to Texas A&M at College Station, and we work with the municipal side of TEEX, Texas Engineering Extension Service, to provide instruction for almost 3,000 firefighters that come in every year for that annual school. We've had some from all over the state, all over the nation, and we've even had some international firefighters come in from Puerto Rico, and we had some from South Africa come in one time. So TEEX is a big fire school throughout the world. We also accepted a grant award for the solid waste pass-through grant in the amount of $85,000 to develop the Southwest Regional Disaster Debris Management Plan for the cities of Cedar Hill, Duncanville, and Lancaster. And then every second Thursday of every month, we do a mandatory Emergency Operations Center exercise. The first one we did, we held a severe weather tabletop exercise on August the 6th, and then we had a full-scale evacuation exercise at Laurenwood Nursing Home on August the 20th, which went very well. We also, in conjunction with American Red Cross, we held mass care and sheltering full-scale exercise in DeSoto and Lancaster on August the 3rd. And we also, here in Duncanville, we had an exercise on September the 30th, which involved an active shooter consequence management top table exercise. So As far as emergency management, we're receiving a lot of training and experience through these exercises. Going for our quarter four for our calls for service, the ones I'd like to bring to your attention are our EMS calls for service. We had 1,145, and also our inspections we completed. We did 246 inspections during that quarter with our fire marshal and our inspector. To sum up our fiscal year 18, we had 6,688 calls for service. We had building fires of 68, and then we had EMS calls for service of 4,854, and then we had inspections that we completed was 1,109. With that, do we have any questions?
Quick question.
Yes, sir, Mayor.
Sorry. Like when there's a Saturday baseball out at Harrington Park, all those teams are there. Is there an AED in the concession stand or anything like that? Or I'm just curious.
I don't believe there is. We only have certain facilities in the city that have a AED. Generally in that park, it's a 911 call, and we're right around the corner. We're less than 6 minutes to respond to that field, and we have a modular defibrillator that's actually better than an AED. So we can be there in 5 minutes to provide aid.
There is one in the field house.
There's 2 of them in the field house.
2 in the field.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I was just curious. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Yes.
I was just curious on the tabletop exercises. Have y'all done one with the sirens going off?
Dennis, you would have to be funny, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
No, but we have set our sirens off during during one of our exercises. We simulated it because it's to simulate communicating the issue with the community. We'll use our Everbridge and our sirens, and of course the sirens are outdoor warning system, and they're intended for people who are outdoors during a storm or whatever event that might be out there that they would need to be notified outdoors. They're not intended to give notification for indoor notification.
I just know that it creates, when something like that event happens, it really clogs up the system. And, I'm sure that there's planning to get around some of that, but it creates a big problem.
It does create a big problem, and me and the city manager were right smack dab in the middle of it trying to correct it. And we got a hold with the vendor, and they helped walk us through the system. And matter of fact, they even logged in to the system, and they reprogrammed it while me and the city manager were sitting there with it. So.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Police Department quarterly report.
Hello, council, mayor, city manager. I'm Lieutenant Young, for any of y'all who don't know me.
Your name again, please?
Lieutenant Young.
Young.
Yes, sir. All right. So to start off, we're going to go with our staffing and personnel. Our newest officers are Officers Norman and McMiller. These are their photos from their graduation. They graduated on July 27th from North Central Texas Council of Governments. I will call it COG because it's easier to say, because I have another slide that says it 3 more times. They're both in field training. They're both doing really well. We're really happy with their progress.
Excuse me, does that training take place right next to the COG building in Arlington?
Yes, sir. It's at that same building. Yeah.
So I came out of a meeting in that building, the COG building, and there were like armies of people with weapons.
Oh yeah.
And I was going like, and they were putting on
in their
gear.
tan uniforms.
Yeah, and they were in their tan uniforms, and they're putting on all their gear, and they're like hundreds of them, and I'm going like, I sure hope there's training going on in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where it is.
That's where it is.
Oh, okay.
That's the place. You found it. All right, more staffing. The newest officers to come out of COG are Christian Panilla, Christopher Mahoney, and Devin Blackmore. They graduated on September 27th. They are about to enter the field training phase. They just finished their in-service phase. They all did really well in the academy. Mahoney was the valedictorian, which means he had the highest GPA. Panilla was the top shooter, and Devin Blackmore just barely missed being the most physically fit of the group. So we had some of the 3 top people in the entire class. So So we're really happy with their progress. We're really looking forward to getting them through their field training and getting them on the street. We also have 2 more that are currently in the academy. Their graduation date would be January 25th. As far as I know, their grades are acceptable. I don't know what level they are, but they're not low. But they're both doing well, from what I understand. And then our newest recruit is Luis Alvidrez, and he will start the academy on October 29th. With all that said, we still have 6 vacancies. So we are looking to have a civil service exam on November 3rd. We have exhausted our previous list. So seeing as we've gone through all that, we'll have the civil service exam, we'll get a new list, and we'll look forward to hiring 6 more people. If you know anybody who wants to apply, they need to apply online by October 26th. That's the cutoff date, and they can list my name as the reference on there. So, just let them know. Lieutenant Young. We currently had active shooter training. We do this biannually, correct? There's some pictures from it. We do a full scale, we did it at the old Baylor Hospital in Waxahachie. We do a full scale event from the call out, creating the command post, all the way through the whole process. It's a really important function that we do. We require it for all officers. Only very extenuating circumstances allows an officer to not attend this training. It's important for us to do this, especially since we have such large schools in our city. Chief Brown and Operation Blue Shield Book Challenge. I'm not sure if we're supposed to actually hear this video. Just the still? Okay. I don't know anything about that.
It's not embedded in there. Basically, Mayor and Council, this was an opportunity to help you read books. It was a effort between myself and Operation Blue Shield. We just want to encourage you to read.
We recently had National Night Out. Some photos from National Night Out. We had a pretty large attendance. Over 700 people, I believe, attended the event. And at the event, we pushed forward our Protect DNA program. That's the really cool DNA stuff where you can just touch it and it's got a serial number on it. I think that's really neat. There's some more information on the slide about the Protect DNA. We also had our awards banquet. At the banquet, we had our Officer of the Year, which was Andy Armstrong, who recently got chosen to be our newest detective. That will start in just after January. Our Civilian of the Year was our Animal Control Officer, Chad Chamberlain, and our Volunteer of the Year was Dee Pruitt. And our incident reports. So our use of force reports were 4. All use of force incidents were found to be lawful and within departmental policy. We had 1 pursuit, which was within departmental guidelines, and we had 1 complaint. It was an internal complaint of disrespect between 2 employees, and it was a sustained complaint. In July, we had 6 meetings for community meetings and partnerships. Over 12,000 partnerships were had there. In August, there were 8 meetings with almost 800 partnerships, and then in September, we had 8 meetings with 402 partnerships. So Crime Watch meetings, homeowner associations, business watches, and that does not include National Night Out, which was in October. Our Part 1 crimes are listed here, and we'll go into the list of the Part 1 crimes for January to September. Of note, commercial burglaries are down in both, for total burglaries, mostly during the day. Our residential burglaries at night are down, but overall, total crime per this year to date to last year to date is up 16% overall. Y'all have any questions?
We'll get a copy of the presentation. I just want a copy of that last page, really.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Can you make the numbers bigger? No, just kidding.
It's a little small from over here. You'll notice that it's from looking at it, the big increase is mostly from thefts, from our, not burglaries, but just straight up thefts, either felony or misdemeanor, which would be not including vehicles. That would be from businesses or from outside homes, not from inside homes. So it looks like that's the biggest increase, which is probably why we're seeing that 16% increase overall. When
Are
we
the
see,
Go
I'm sorry?
ahead. Are the perpetrators Duncanville residents?
That's hard to say. In my experience, a lot of the crime is committed by people who don't live here. You normally don't commit crime right around where you live. It's just kind of not, it's not smart. We see a lot of people coming from Dallas. We are surrounded by Dallas pretty much on 3 sides, so we do see a lot of offenders come from Dallas. But I can't say for these stats in particularly whether or not these people were Duncanville residents.
What are we doing with our youth crimes? I know in some cases we have some youth that committing a crime. Are they in those numbers, especially since they are underage?
It would depend on
their parents?
It would depend on if it was one of these crimes. All Part 1 crimes are reported through UCR reporting. So if they were involved in a Part 1 crime, then yes, it would be reported through UCR standards. So this is where the FBI requires us to report certain stats for certain crimes, and Part 1 crimes are what are listed here in this report. So if it was included in a Part 1 crime, yes, it would be listed here.
Is there any partnership or opportunities for us to help the youth that are committing crimes? I'm getting some calls around the youth committing crimes throughout neighborhoods, and I've talked to Chief about it. We got to figure out how we can rally our troops around our youth that's committing crimes in our city.
What happens when a juvenile gets arrested, the first thing that happens is they come here, and we process them, and then they're processed either through Lone Star or LETOT, which is kind of like the runaway Class C, like lower level crimes. Lone Star is where you're going to have your Class B and above crimes. Most of the time, those juveniles almost always get to go home. Their parents come pick them up because they say, don't even bring them here. Come pick them up. Then they partner with the parents, and they partner with the child and try to, it's my understanding, they try to do as much as they can to kind of divert that behavior as opposed to just impose a punishment on them. I don't know of any better way than for us to partner with the schools in our community, for us to reach out to the schools. I know that we do try to reach out, and since they're getting their own police department, and that's kind of going to settle down, I think now that they've gotten a chief and they're going to have their own officers, we've already been in contact with them, and we hope to partner with their police department pretty closely so that we can be involved in that process moving forward. I think we'll see some settling down as their officers get established in the schools.
All right, thank you. Yeah, Ms. Thomas.
Hi. So recently, you apprehended a man that was targeting a child over by, I believe, Reed.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct about that?
I believe so. I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with all the details of that
Okay.
case.
Well, just about a week before that, my daughter was coming up home, and it was dark outside, and she came to the front door, and a man followed her all the way to the front door. And she just had the presence of mind to turn the flashlight on her phone, shine it in his face, and blinded him. And then she's at the door, and we all came out, and I called 911. So anyway, I don't know if it's the same guy, but they took their report. And then, like a few days after that, my niece, who lives in the same neighborhood, we live near Reed, she was followed by a car, and she ran home, but that wasn't reported. What I'm asking you is that, is there a program, or how do you educate the children to know what they need to do in those dangerous situations? That's 2 just in my family and 1 that y'all actually apprehended. So I'm thinking there's more going on.
Sure, and I could probably guess that there is. I mean, it's not common, but it's not uncommon. Like I said, it's really important that we partner with the schools because that's where we're going to reach the most children at once because they go to school every day. So it's important, but it's also important as parents, I'm a parent as well, that we educate our children ourselves on what to do. So I find that it's most important to educate the adults on the appropriate steps to take. Because the problem that we see with a lot of the crime that occurs in our town is no one ever tells us it's happening. It doesn't get reported. Like you said, the girl was followed, it never got reported. We can't follow up on crime that we don't know is happening. So it's important as adults that we know, hey, if you see something, say something. Call us, let us know. Even if it's something that seems trivial, That's not trivial, but even something as so far as someone seems off in your neighborhood, or you see something, your neighbor's door's open. That's not normal behavior for them. Don't call us an hour later, call us when you see it. So we as adults need to educate the children that are around us that when you see something, you need to call the police and say something immediately. And that's how we ended up being able to apprehend the person that you're referring to, is they called us when it was happening, and we were able to locate that individual. We aren't going to be able to locate that individual 2 hours later when they're already back in whatever town they came from. We just can't, we can't do it. So we have to partner with the adults in all these children's lives, the teachers, and get to the schools to tell them, when you see something that doesn't look right, call us. Everybody's got a phone in their pocket. Just dial 911 even if it seems trivial, and let us know, and let us figure out whether it's important or not. That's what I would say. It starts with the parents teaching their children.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Financial report. Mr. Summerlin.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this report is for August 30th, and our benchmark is that we should be at about 92% of our budgets. Our general fund ending unreserved fund balance was $10.4 million. That's about 126 days of operations, and that's about $4.2 million above the benchmark 75-day fund reserve, so we're in good shape there. Property tax revenue, of course, consists of three different areas. Our current property tax collections are 99.8% of our budget. Our delinquent tax collections are 96% of the budget. And then penalties and interest on past due taxes are at 202% of our budget. And so we've had quite a bit of collection on those delinquent taxes this year, quite a bit of penalties. Our sales tax revenue so far is about 7% higher than it was same time last year. The data here, of course, only reflects 9 months of revenue. And then our overall general fund expenditures are at 82% of the budget, so about 10% less than that benchmark, which is, again, in a good place. So just looking at that graphically, these are our general fund revenues. Our purple line would assume that those revenues occur evenly over the 12 months in the fiscal year. And then, of course, the blue line is our 3-year average, past 3-year average, and then the red line is our actuals. And if we laser out our property revenues, of course, they skyrocket up when we do the majority of our collections in December, January, February, and then they taper off for the remainder of the year. We'll look at our expenditures. You can see that we started out a little bit above the line, came down to the line. That's our benchmark for the budget equally spread over the year. Then in January, we were right on the line. In February, we started tapering off, and it looks like at this point that we'll end below budget on expenditures, which is a good thing. Our utility fund ending unreserved fund balance, $8.1 million. That's about $5 million in excess of the 60-day fund balance reserve. Our utility and our solid waste revenues, of course, have a 1-month delay. And so overall, we're at about 89% of the budget. And then on the utility fund expenditures, we're at about 84% of the budget. So you can see the revenues, they were below our target line. And now as we've come through the warmer months of the year, we're getting very near our revenue projections, and probably will end right about where we projected this year. Our expenditures in the utility fund, of course, have started out and remained just below the line. We got pretty close there during the kind of middle of the year, but now we've got a nice bit of separation, and looks like we're on target to end the year below budget. Our one-time project funds, those that are highlighted in yellow, are essentially complete, and the other ones are still a work in progress. And I'll answer any questions.
There was a line item on that last chart, Rich, the ERP, how's it going?
The ERP project, in terms of cost or in terms of
Implementation.
implementation, is going quite well. I feel like overall we are changing the way that we're processing payments. We're pushing a lot of responsibility back out into the departments for people to be responsible for their budget and their expenditures. And overall, I feel like it's gone really smoothly. We, of course, are finding that there are little things here and there that to be expected when you're in a new system that we have to work through. Some of them processes, some of them, little issues with the software. But as I like to say, we're in our third week of implementation, and we've had no big, huge issue.
We are burning in on a background server?
I'm sorry?
We're burning in on a background server, or we're burning in live?
This is live, yeah.
We're burning in live.
Yeah.
Yes, we went live October 1st on our financials, and my hope is that the next council meeting I would like to recognize the ERP project team, but I'm very proud of what they have done. Paul, Richard, there's the finance staff, IT staff, worked very hard on it. We're still in the implementation phase on the HR payroll modules with go live on January 1st, but everything went very smoothly. We implemented in a very short time frame, and even Munis and Barry Dunn commented that this was one of the fastest implementations that they have been associated with, and one of the smoothest. And so I think that is especially kudos to our project team and all of our departments who supported the finance and IT staff with getting the information in, going through the training. It was a lot of days of training, but we're very happy with the project and where we're at on it. And as Richard said, it is changing the way we do business, and we're already seeing the efficiencies in the processes.
Great. So we have some ERP black belts.
We do.
Very good. Glad to hear that. Okay. We are officially adjourned at 10:13.